Okay, 3, 2, 1. We is live on YouTube.
Hello.
YouTube.
We is live on Facebook.
The Tube.
Facebook. We is live on Facebook. Right, just give me a second. Yo, check, 1, 2, check.
I love how
check,
Chris's
1, 2,
mood
check.
immediately changes as soon as we go live. Anyone else notice that?
It was a grumpy.
Funny that.
He's just an absolute pro.
Mate, what can I say? You've got to sort these things out, you know what I mean?
You were made for TV, Chris.
I got a face for radio, though.
Radio.
Yeah, you got there before me there. Preempted that one.
Yes, is that Eurovision started?
Please, I'm having no talk about fucking Eurovision.
Get out! It's actually got it on the screen, hasn't it?
You do realise I can remove you from this chat like that.
Mate, come on, equal opportunities.
Yeah, equal opportunities. Yeah, absolutely.
All inclusive.
Tricky said something about me liking Wendy Ball again. Why? What's happened?
Don't know. Somebody scored a try.
Okay, that's all right then. Was it something important on today?
Huh? Are you trying to pretend that you don't actually know, or are you just...
No, literally, I don't have a clue. I spent this
There's
morning
another
looking
FA
for
Cup
it.
was on.
Oh, yeah,
Celtic get handed the...
Your red team
Okay.
beat the blue team, who were actually in yellow today.
Well, that's not Man City.
Who was
Celtic won the league, so...
Well, that's not important. And we cares unless it's Rangers.
Who was in the final?
It was
Chris, you've
Chelsea.
got Echo, apparently,
I'm echoing.
according to the YouTube.
That's very strange because I've got... Oh, wait there. Hang on.
You get two windows.
No. Am I echoing now? Am I still echoing?
Well, not to us, you're not. But
Not for us, but on the YouTube stream, it must have been. Somebody tell us on the YouTube chat.
I'll slow down.
It's all right. I've worked out what it is. Can you guys hear me now?
No,
Yeah, we can still hear you.
stopped hearing you.
Okay.
Sounds like you fixed it.
Yeah, I have fixed it because I'd forgotten to mute my microphone in the OBS settings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check.
Okay, that's fine. Right.
Absolute pros here.
Mate, nothing but professionals in this place. Nothing but professionionals.
I thought we were.
Let's say it's good.
I thought we were getting
Hey!
ready before we go live.
Oshin's watching us live on Facebook.
Check.
Oshin.
Check.
I'm going to be sending a bottle in with the missus, mate. It's my hibiscus and raspberry saison. I'll send you a bottle in, buddy. You'll like it. It's nice. Actually, you might not like it. You might think it's shit, but whatever. Okay. Who's doing the intro?
Hold on, I'm having a problem with Audacity.
I'll make a change.
Hello.
Right, I'm just going to refill then because that pint has gone down really quick.
Check. Mic check.
Show notes, Google. So pro, yeah.
Mic check.
Right then.
Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. My mic's pretty quiet on Audacity for some reason.
Oshin, if you need a keg, mate, I've got a spare keg and it happens to be full of beer.
It's a bit weird. Am I quiet on the chat?
No, but you're in 4:3 for some reason on your camera.
I think it's always 4:3 actually.
Yeah, I think it is always up. Anyway.
Can you not turn widescreen on?
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Just ask him, buddy.
Probably.
Why?
It's fine.
I just like the artistic borders.
Yeah, there you go. There's me now back in a bad mood.
I think they make me look nice.
Owen, you're a sexy man anyway. Let's just move past that.
I need arty borders, like a
He likes to
classic
be
French
sandwiched
film.
between two black columns, doesn't he? Oh,
Rude.
oh.
I remember going to somebody's house when we were putting tents up when I lived when I was at university down in Surrey. And we turned up to their house and the entire front of their house was completely white, except for the two Greek pillars either side of the front door, which were jet black. And I'm like, who the hell designed this? Because that's wrong. Yeah, very weird.
What? I'm just going to go and get a top
Are
up.
we nearly ready?
Owen needs a beer.
I need a beer. Hold on. Hold your horses.
Troy's here.
Mate, we've
I've
got
got like 3 lined up, ready to go. What are you guys doing?
I thought we agreed we were going to sort all the faffing and then go live.
Fappage.
fapping.
Fappage.
Oh, faffing. Sorry, fapping.
No, fappage.
I'm not fapping live
The
on
fapping
freaking
is
YouTube.
only for the Patreons. That's only for the patrons.
Right, you boys fap for a bit.
Oh,
Well, if he's gone for a quicken, you know. Oh yeah,
is that ribs, Chris?
yeah.
Num 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 num.
So, today's barbecue and beer episode will consist of you watching Chris gnaw on a bone,
Oh yeah.
and then drinking beer. That's it.
And
So
if you
enjoy the podcast, everyone.
If you're catching up with us later, just skip forward to 38 minutes when the actual podcast starts on the live stream.
Yeah. At this
Sun's
rate,
out,
I'll have
guns
drunk
out.
all my podcast beers before we actually start.
Mm. I have to say, these ribs are pretty damn fantastic. Mm. I can gnaw on a bone with the best of them.
Sexy.
Standard Memphis Dust option.
Memphis
Chris?
Dust, Gotcha Chang barbecue.
Oh, fusion cuisine.
I have to say, it works really well with them. And the Memphis Dust actually had.
All right. Keep it for the pod.
All right, and this,
Right, let's just hit record.
for everybody who's wondering, this is exactly why I have like baby wipes in the shed, not for any other purpose.
Not that you insinuate, anyway.
I
Yeah,
don't
the
insinuate
purpose.
anything. I'm the person being insinuated against.
Baby wipes at his computer, say no more.
I'm gonna have something to clean the screen. I'm not saying what's causing the mess on the screen. I'm just saying you've got to have something to clean the screen.
Dear me.
Ah,
I'm back.
the sexy man is back. Weirdly enough, the only man without a receding hairline on the podcast.
It's all there.
Yours ain't far from your ears. Calm down, Andy.
Full head. What are you talking about?
All right
You
then.
look at photos of me as a kid, it was always like this, so.
Yeah, of course it was.
It started there.
Yeah,
It's
keep
not
telling
receded.
yourself that. You started receding when you were 6. Right then. Shall we do this?
Let's
Please.
do this.
Shall I do the intro or is somebody else going to do the intro?
Go nuts, mate.
Okay. Right, gentlemen.
Well, you need to hit
Big
record.
Three.
down.
2, 1, click. Right. Just give me 1 second. Because I've just eaten something stupidly and drunk some cold, so I probably need to burp.
Welcome.
Likewise.
Right then.
Smooth. Really
Oh.
smooth.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 43 of the Hop Edition podcast, where today we're going to be talking about beer, and barbecue. And for three of us who are currently sitting here talking, it is our favourite thing in the world, beer and barbecue. Then there's Andy, who doesn't have a real barbecue.
I do.
Not that we're going to give him massive amounts of shit about this through the entire podcast, but Andy doesn't have a real barbecue.
See, the thing is, I can come as an outsider to all this and ask all the pertinent questions that our listeners want to hear.
Or the guys on the live chat can do that as well. But, you know.
That's true.
But to be fair, you need to ask some questions considering what you've got in your back garden.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm sure it is. And that addition of a thermometer made worlds of difference.
It did, actually.
I imagine
I reckon that thing's probably ultra accurate.
Yeah. It's within at least 40 degrees.
It
So-
cooks stuff.
I'm sure it does. That's all that matters.
Don't set your mash temperature by it. That's all I'll say.
So, as is always the way on podcasts moving forwards, we want to give a shout out to our Patreons. Thank you very much to everybody who's currently donating to the podcast via Patreon. We've got far too many of them to name, I'll be honest right now, and I can't remember all of their names either.
Have you not got the list?
No, because that'd be far too organised.
Yeah, we were going to shout all your names out, but Chris didn't get the list up. So,
well, to be
thanks,
fair, we can do that after 2 clicks. So I want to say thank you to Brett Simmons, who is he's a hop stander. We've got Stevie Burton who signed up as well. We got Phil Jones, Gary the Hitman Hughes. We've got Thomas H, our resident northerner, and it might just be getting light sometime in Sweden right now. We've got Graham Hughes, the sexy man from Sussex.
G-Man.
We've got Brewcat Brewery, Mr. Richie Brooks, the man who made the best beer for me last year with the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
Lukey Stevens, who unfortunately is a Spurs fan. Then we've got Brett Harmon, and that's the list as it currently stands. So thank you to everybody who is a Patreon for the podcast. However, we have a new one to add. We'd like to welcome the podcast's first sponsor, and that would be Brew Keg Tap. If you need anything to do with kegging, anything to do with dispensing, if you need anything to do with any of the Brewzilla, Firmzilla products, or, as Andy will tell you, the most fantastic drip trays ever made, go to Brew Keg Tap. These guys are amazing. They are very customer forward. They will look after you. I had an issue with a regulator. It was solved. I just emailed Johnny, said, these are the issues I've got. He went, boom, here's a solution. We solved the issue.
You get free shipping as well, don't you, Chris, when you spend a certain amount?
It's over £100, I think. It's the same as the malt miller.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as the malt miller. But Brew Keg Tap are now sponsoring the podcast moving forward. So this is the Hop Edition brought to you in association with Brew Keg Tap.
Sure.
Please hit them up, and the website is www.brewkegtap.co.uk. Always amazing, incredible company, and I'm really glad because we all said that we'd never have a company come on and sponsor us. We'd never allow it unless it was a company that we would all use ourselves. Yeah. Brew Keg Tap ticks that box.
Cheers, Johnny.
Yeah,
Here's
and I think we've all had interactions with Johnny prior to this, and he's a top bloke. So, take some of your custom his way if you can.
Absolutely. And also, I found out he's probably surfing this weekend. What more is there to say? The dude not only sells you kegs at a very good price, sells you all the Firmzilla stuff at a very good price. He's also a surfer. What more do you need?
Yeah, I don't know.
Top lad. So, moving on from that, what are we drinking? What you got in your glass, Andy?
I've got my Sierra Nevada Pale Ale with it's just delicious. That's what I'm drinking, man. Grapefruit and just classic. It's good. Took over the boys last night as well. I was on the bevies last night, on the dippers and tippers, getting a little bit mashed, should I say?
A little bit mashed.
We've seen the photographic evidence, Andy. We know exactly what was going on.
Tippers is dangerous, man.
Yeah. So we did that. I took over the Sierra and we did a check with the actual real one, and mine was far better, funnily enough. And what you call it? It was great. And then we also brewed beer because my mate Del, He's also a homebrewer, so shout out to Del.
I'm assuming from the pictures.
Milkshake, pale ale.
I assumed you were making a Stella clone because I saw somebody peeing in the fermenter.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I thought that was funny as hell.
So yeah, that was good. Good night last night.
I don't think you're a homebrewer until you've done a Sierra Nevada clone.
Yeah, I mean that took me what 4 or 5 years to actually finally do one.
I'm not a homebrewer then.
That was your first go at it.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. We can call you a homebrewer now.
That's
right, bro.
It's legit.
Legit. Welcome to the club, Andy.
Yeah. Is
Chris,
it good? Is it tasting nice? Is it tasting good? The Sierra Nevada, is it tasting good?
It's just banging, yeah. I switched it out for Munich instead of the Crystal. The caramel, I think they recommend. Put the Crystal
60.
No, Crystal Munich. And then I put in some amber malt as well.
So it's not even remotely close to a Sierra Nevada clone.
No, it's the exact same hop additions, everything. So
you just changed the malt.
I've just changed.
Did you go for the recipe 100% Cascade or the one that's got the other stuff in it as well?
100% Cascade. It was like the 90 minute, 60, 30, whatever it is. Yeah.
What yeast did you use?
Yeast? Oh, USO5.
Classic.
Chico.
Is it not? Is it not dry hopped? I can't remember if that's.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have a dry hop. No dry hop. Yeah.
Yeah. What you got in your glass, Owen?
This was my Dead Pony Club clone.
Ah,
so I'm
classic.
Like, Andy and I are just cloning classic beers.
Yes.
So this, in fact, is there you go. Look, really clear that.
That's not bad. That. Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah. Right, what do I say about this beer? First beer I've ever gelatined. And
wow.
Yeah, it's come up really clear. First time I've ever used gelatin in a beer. And I'm impressed. Good trick. So this is just a nice hoppy 4% kind of pale ale, really.
He's obviously got some vegan relatives visiting soon, hasn't he?
Yeah, clearly. But it's still in the FE. So I basically cold crashed it and then I dry hopped it. It's got quite a big dry hop on it. I did a double batch. The idea was it was going to go on the hand pull. And I did this double batch.
Dead Pony?
Yeah, Dead Pony, yeah.
On the hand pull?
Yeah, put it on the hand pull, mate.
Legend.
Yeah.
Old move.
The thing is, it hasn't made the hand pull yet.
I like it.
Because literally, I've got.
Oh, you're drinking out the FE.
Yeah. I'm drinking straight out the FE because
this is one of the ones that there's no space for in a keg yet. Yeah,
yeah, I've got 8 kegs and I've got no spare kegs.
If you manage to polish that batch off before it even gets into the keg, then you've officially achieved legendary status. Owen, just put that out there.
I'm having a pretty good go, to be fair.
I'll be honest. If you peg that before it goes into a keg, mate, then that's it. That is godlike status.
I think where I cold crashed it and it's just been sat at like half a degree. Obviously got all the dry hops still at the bottom. So it is beginning to like pick up a little bit of a grassy flavour. But not an unpleasant grassy flavour, which in reality it probably picked it up before I cold crashed it. But I've done this recipe probably 2 or 3 times before.
All right,
and I really like it. I think, Dead Pony, I think is a pretty good beer. I think it's probably Brewdog's best one. And I really enjoy it. It's just
it's
super
simple, isn't it?
I agree. To be fair, Dead Pony is the only one if I see it on tap, I'm still like drawn to getting a pint of it at the minute.
Okay.
Yeah, mate.
I mean, to be fair, you only really see Punk or that on tap, don't you? Generally from them, if it's not a Brewdog bar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to see
Elvis
it.
Sometimes.
I don't tend to see it on tap anywhere but Brewdog. But
yeah,
that may just be a reflection of the Southampton pubs. To be fair,
yeah, there's a couple of places local to me that have it, but it's it's not that.
I'm just gonna have a look at what the hops are.
I'm sure it's
it's got a shitload of crystal malt in it, hasn't it, as well? It's like a fairly hefty
400 grams or something.
Yeah, dark crystal, 450 grams, 5%. Bear in mind, this is a double batch. I changed out the caramel for Munich malt.
Yeah,
much like you did.
Yep.
And then it's a combination of Marisotta and extra pale malt because I didn't have enough Marisotta. And I changed the hops out. So I think normally it is Simcoe, but I went Citrus Centennial in the boil, and then the dry hop Centennial Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin.
So is it a dead pony then?
Not really, no. And I use Lallemand English style ESP yeast, which does not flock well. I can tell you that much.
So can we just say that of the two clone beers that we've had on the podcast so far, neither of them's been even remotely close?
No, mine's no. We tried it. We tried it with the original and mine, and yeah, mine's was a lot better.
Okay, nice. Tricky. What you got in your melted sand?
Well, my first couple of podcast beers, at least, are sponsored by Horsemen Brewing. This one is Hopfenweiss. That colour looks awful on my camera, but it's not actually as bad as it looks there. Hang on, I've got the recipe because
just
QR code on the bottle to bring it up. So Hopfenweiss 6.3%. I mean, I think Hopfenweiss is a sort of not really a traditional style anyway, but this is definitely leaning more towards the kind of, if there was such a thing, a New England kind of Hopfenweiss, because there's El Dorado, Amarillo, Ella, Citra, more El Dorado, more Amarillo, and lots of it. So there's probably...
And then it's got a Hefe yeast.
So it's basically,
yes.
Fermented out with a Hefe yeast.
It's a Nipah with Hefe yeast in it, pretty much, I think. So there's about 200 grams in the dry hop.
So that's not what Cloudwater do. Cloudwater do something like this, do they not?
Yeah, 200 grams. It's basically all hop stand, 200 grams of those hops, and then 200 grams dry hop. Hefe yeast.
Does it work? What I want to know, does the Hefe yeast work with the hops?
So there's definitely like that banana-y bubblegum thing on the nose. And then that combination of hops almost gives it like a sort of strawberry melon kind of thing. So in this particular beer, I mean, it's way off what you would expect flavor-wise for like a typical Hefe, obviously, but it definitely has that sort of banana fruit. It reminds me of a certain type of cocktail that I can't bring the name of to mind at the minute. But it's not quite that sort of like pineapple-y, but
is it good?
Anyway, I like it. Yeah, it's really nice. So
would you have a keg of it?
It takes a little bit, like initially, for you to sort of calibrate your taste buds to it and go, okay, what's going on here? Because there's definitely like that banana Hefe flavor there from the yeast, but then also the fruity hops coming on as well. So, but no, it's good. I like it. Yeah, I wouldn't do a sesh on it, I don't think, because it's super thick. It's definitely got that like. I mean, Hefe can be quite a sort of full-bodied beer anyway, and then you've got all the hops and the sort of Nipah. I think the malt bill might be quite Nipah-ish as well, to be fair.
Lots of wheat.
So yeah, we've got lots. Yeah, the malt bill is more of a Nipah malt bill than a traditional Hefe malt bill, because there is wheat in there, but there's also lots of Munich, lots of oats. Quite a bit of caramel malt in there as well. So yeah, basically a Nipah with Hefe yeast in it, I think, but definitely worth experimenting with.
Yeah, it's something that I read about, and I was like, that'd be interesting. Then I read in or listen to podcasts about it and stuff, and people are a bit torn between it because it's almost
Yeah.
like
Oh,
you know.
Andy Higginbottom in the chat has just said daiquiri, and I think that was the cocktail name that I was looking for. So cheers for
There
that,
you
Andy.
A daiquiri.
Good.
Never had one of them.
Yeah. And
Cheers,
Brett Hitman Harmon has just said it's my Nipa base with a hef yeast. I think it's Omega. I think he used the Omega yeast.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Hef number 1. And as I recall, I think he's been fermenting it pretty high, at like 24, 25, just to really push that banana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he did say that he did actually base it on the Cloudwater beer as well. I don't know if anybody saw that comment as well.
Yeah.
Has anyone
good
drunk
shout.
the Cloudwater hop advice? Has anyone had it?
No, I have not.
No, I haven't had it. People rave about it.
I'm sure it was in the book. Would you call it? Is it Matt? Did?
Oh, maybe.
I think he did it as Cloudwater's beer. I think it was the hop advice or whatever. Possibly.
It's got to be worth a look at then, surely.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What are you
Well,
drinking,
anyway.
Chris?
I had a full pint of my Kolsch, which isn't very clear. So this is my previous Kolsch recipe, but I used a different yeast. I used the Omega Kolsch 2 yeast. Can't remember the number. Oh, YL something or other.
Just remember, Kolsch inspired. Kolsch
Yeah,
inspired.
sorry, it's a Kolsch style
That's
beer.
it.
Because obviously
hazy.
I'm not in Cologne. But this is hazy as hell. No idea why. I presume it's the yeast, or I've cocked up somewhere.
Did you
Who
forget
knows?
your protoflock?
No, I never forget my protoflock, mate. Oscar throws that in. So unless he's thrown it into next door's garden. It's
Try and
Oscar.
clear that.
It's Oscar. Who knows? Oscar's my son, for anyone who's new. I don't know. But it's not clear at all. But it tastes absolutely banging. It tastes exactly like the previous version. It just doesn't look like it because, as everybody who's on the podcast today will verify, since you drank it all, my first Kolsch was very, very clear.
But it
was
also
very
lagged.
nice, yeah.
It lagged for a nice period of time as well.
Yeah, it had a good few months. It is getting clearer.
To
You know.
be fair, a Kolsch at no point should really look that hazy, though, should it?
No.
Right. Even in the FE,
I'm tempted to gelatin it, but, you know, I don't know. Probably
I reckon
not.
even if you gelatin that, it still wouldn't drop right.
I'll take your challenge, sir. We'll see on the next podcast. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm drinking a Kolsch. I forgot to mention this at the beginning when I did the Patreon shout out, but if you wish to contribute to the podcast, it is www.patreon.com/The Hop Edition Podcast. There's multiple levels. It's up to you. If you can, do it. If you don't want to, don't bother.
Over there.
That link is also on the Hop Edition website if you want to go on there to find it. Rather than
And we've got
skipping back to try and
we've got a Discord chat as well where we chat all sorts of homebrew.
But you have to be a Patreon supporter to get onto.
Of course.
To get onto the Discord chat.
Yeah.
We are there. There's some
the VIP room.
There are multiple channels on there. One of them specifically dedicated, Segway boys, learn. One of them specifically dedicated to barbecued food.
Yum, yum, yum,
Well,
yum.
fancy that, Chris.
Yeah, it's almost like
And
I
it
run
just
the
so
damn
happens.
Segway. Yeah, so that's the topic of today's podcast is beer and barbecue.
Yes.
So why is it, and I'll open this up to the room, why is it that brewers have an unusual propensity to normally be foodies or foodies and barbecue monsters or barbecue monsters? Why is it that we have that propensity?
I think I know.
Go on then.
We love the process and things that take time. Because barbecue is not like cooking, normal cooking. Because normal cooking in-house is like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes to prepare like a full meal or whatever. You can be. Barbecue is all about that long, slow process where you take your time with things and you can do all your different... There's all these little intricacies that you can change. It seems to be that, and there's a lot, you can buy equipment as well, and you can get different types of equipment. Do you guys? There's some sort of similarities here with.
I
with
definitely
Homebrew.
agree with that, but I think it does also extend into like normal cooking as well. When it comes to like extra gadgets and all those sorts of things, but also just wanting to do stuff from scratch. So like, I don't think I've really met very many homebrewers at all who aren't also keen cooks in terms of like just, cooking their own food from scratch, whether it be barbecue or just normal food, to be honest. So, I mean, I think everyone in here is obviously, barbecue aside, also quite into like cooking and just making their own, recipes up and stuff in the kitchen. And for me, like that was really, before getting into homebrew, it was kind of like, okay, well, I can cook my own food. Why can't I make my own beer? It seems like a natural extension of that to me, anyway.
It's a gateway drug, isn't it?
I think so.
That's what it is. Getting into the kitchen and making your own carbonara from scratch, having looked up a recipe.
And when you've bought that massive stock pot and realised, oh, hang on a minute.
It's like,
hang on a minute.
Bob, I just made my own
on this
stock.
website over here that says I can make a gallon of beer in this. So let's get it on.
It's definitely one of those things. I personally think it comes down a lot to creativity. We may not all be artists, but we're all creative in some way. I like to think I'm quite creative in the kitchen. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I'm still creative. I think it comes down to an expression of yourself. We all tend to want to be able to express ourselves and express our, our ability to perform a task. We want to express, and also for me, putting it bluntly, it is an absolute desire to make it myself. I do not want to go to the shop and buy a jar of dolmio, throw it on some fried onions and friggin' minced beef and call that a bolognese. I just don't. But at the same time, I've been to barbecue restaurants all over America because I'm a lucky guy. And I feel right now I'm probably around about 50% of where I could be with the barbecue. And for me, it's that desire to get to 90%. I'm never going to make 100%. I want to be 90% of what I can be in anything that I do.
Pursuit of perfection.
Pursuit of perfection. It exists both in brewing and barbecue. So, on to the next point. Andy, when are you going to buy a proper barbecue?
So, this is funny because before, you guys were talking about your barbecuing and all that sort of thing, barbecuing to me was coals on a grill sort of barbecue, open barbecue, and you nuke that sucker. Like, you cook it till it goes black, sort of, make sure that chicken's cooked, sort of thing,
Classic
English
classic, that kind of disposable barbecue type thing. Whereas, obviously, there's all the chat about barbecuing and the homebrewing, and ended up getting a Weber kettle, and it's been a total game changer. You guys can slag me off as much as you want, whatever. But the Weber's been brilliant. Like, just that it's still juicy. It's not annihilated, sort of dry chicken sort of thing. You've got that smokiness.
Andy, I love what you're saying, and I'm going to let you finish. But Brett Simmons has just made the greatest comment of all time.
Can you get a 4-gallon barbecue?
Can you get a 14-gallon barbecue, Andy? Are you going to need to rewire your house again? That's all we want to know.
No, let's not go there. But
as long as it's shiny and it's made of stainless steel, then Andy's all over it.
Pretty much.
Well, so the grill I had before was all stainless steel, and the main reason I wanted it to be stainless is so it wouldn't rust out, and you could just leave it outside and not worry about it. Whereas the Weber, I've got my big fancy cover for it and all that sort of thing, and look after it.
To be fair, the Weber it's a versatile.
Yeah,
barbecue.
I mean, I know we're all taking the piss here, but yeah, a Weber is it can do all the things that
it's like the plastic bucket.
It's going to take a little bit more work, but you can do everything.
It's a plastic bucket in homebrewing.
I know some people who've churned out pretty fantastic beer can chicken on a Weber. To the point where I've eaten it and gone, I'm not sure I could do this better. So whilst I am going to give you shit for not having a Kamado or a Masterbuilt or a Pro Q Frontier or any of the other really good barbecues or even a Traeger, I do appreciate that the Webers, they will do what you want them to do. It just does take a bit more work.
I don't think the plastic bucket analogy is fair either. I think I'm going to upgrade you to a Speedle at least.
Yeah, that's a Speedle. That's a Speedle. The plastic bucket is more of your disposable barbecue, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
No. That's what do you call it? The disposable barbecue. Is that not like the kind of storage things that you put in?
Yeah, that's like the ones I used to use.
Oh,
That's
Skank Wrangler.
I've got If you want to check out the disposable barbecue equivalent of FVs for homebrew, just pop over to Dudes Brews.
Tricky's got a video on that, unsurprisingly.
Yep. Always.
Yeah, so let's just do a quick run through of what sort of barbecue we all do. Owen, we'll move over to you first. So, what kit do you have for when you're doing your barbecuing?
Well, I've got 3 barbecues. I've got a classic drum grill for like when you want to just eat burgers and sausages.
Good.
Burger heaven.
Yeah, I've got a Pro Q Frontier, which is like effectively one of those like I don't know what we call it. Like it's a smoker. It looks a bit like R2D2.
Bullet smoker.
A bullet smoker. It's a bullet smoker. So it has it breaks into sections, and you have the coal at the bottom, and then it has 2 sections and then a lid, which is great. I really love that. I haven't used it for a while, mainly because I bought an Audi Kamado last year, and what's up with
Chris? Sorry. Oh, and before you go into the Kamado, Kamado. See the smoker, the Pro Q or whatever. What would you do in that? Like you says, it's got different levels. Could you do like different things at different heights or what? Or what was the script with that?
There's a lot of grill space. So effectively, I don't know what like inch it is wide. It's pretty wide. I guess it maybe like 20 inches, 24 inches, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 levels. So you can get an awful lot of food in there.
Right. So it was more about like you could load it up rather than just having one.
Yeah. I could probably get 6 racks of ribs in it. Maybe.
Wow. Right. Okay.
2 briskets, whatever.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in the summer, if you have a party, that may come in useful, Owen.
It would be. It will. I think it will. It will hold its own come the summer, and then I'm just going to continue to call it a Kamado, just to really irritate Chris for the duration of the.
What's called the Kamado?
No, it's called a Kamado because it's Japanese.
Kamado.
But I'm going to call it Kamado because basically I'm southern and posh, so. I have to add an R into everything.
I've met you, son. You're not fucking
Kamado.
Kamado. Oh.
Do you have a butler lighted for you?
Giles, get the chicken on the Kamado. So yeah, that's what I cook up on. But mostly it's the old Kamado that I use the most. And it is a wonderful, wonderful little machine, that. Smoky goodness.
There you go.
What about everyone else?
They're a game changer, aren't they? Kamados.
I'm also well, at the moment I'm exclusively cooking on the Kamado.
Kamado, fucking
this joke's gonna run and run.
The prior to that, I think I was using a really cheap and cheerful kettle barbecue. It was one of those like square ones rather than the Weber shaped ones, but it was to be fair, had like an adjustable like grill height on it, had a lid with the vents, so you could kind of use it like a Weber kettle. It had a shitload of grill space, and I used that until the legs fell off, and then bought one of those really cheapo like offset smokers. So when you like sort of realize that there's this thing of like doing low and slow, and you go, oh, cool, look, there's one of these.
It's got a box at the side, and then
exactly. They're like
thing.
a drum. They're like the barrel-shaped ones, but with a little mini barrel on the edge.
Did Lidl not do them or something? Is that what you got it
I
from?
think Lidl and Aldi have all sold them at one point or another. But the metal is so thin on them, and there's just like no, there's no seal on any of the lids or anything like that. That it's just basically utterly pointless even trying to maintain any kind of temperature on it. I think the best thing that I managed to do was basically like roast the chicken on it indirectly, but that was with like a blazing hot fire in the offset box. And once that had gone out, it just dies basically. So trying to do low and slow, unless you stood next to it and literally fed the coals in like one at a time, there was no way it was going to maintain any sort of heat. I've seen a lot of people. Yes, very much so.
Train,
just
in the boiler.
So unless you were, willing to do a lot of mods to those sorts of things, they're not really worth the money, in my opinion.
They're super thin as well. The metal's super thin on them. They just lose. They're completely inefficient.
Exactly. The heat, even if it makes it out of the firebox into the other bit, it just sort of dissipates straight away. So
sure, my brother got one, and he says it was a nightmare to keep it going.
Yeah, it was probably better as a cold smoker than it was as a hot smoker. But anyway, so yeah, just you ended up using that as a standard grill, and then once I got I got an Aldi Kamado as well, and that's just been a fucking game changer for me because I think it's like one of the most versatile sort of types of barbecue that you can get, and low and slow, normal grilling, just using it like an oven. I use it as a cold smoking chamber as well. I think they're fucking great. So the Aldi version is at the cheap end of the market, and I was a little bit like, what the fuck am I actually about to spend 400 and something quid on a barbecue at the time? Even though I knew that the Kamado Joe and all the rest of them are double that in a lot of cases at least. But yeah, I would buy another one tomorrow if for some reason this one broke. No issues at all.
To be fair, the wife has turned around to me already because I bought my Kamado after you, Tricky. Basically, you got yours just before lockdown, didn't you?
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah,
I got mine about 6 weeks into lockdown. Drove to the other side of Yorkshire to pick it up because that's what you do when you require an outdoor cooker. And I have to say that the difference in barbecuing between using the old Weber Q120 gas grill that I was using before and the Kamado is just phenomenal. The difference in flavor is amazing. The difference in versatility. I've used my Kamado literally as everything from a smoker.
Chris, you're always using that Kamado. Always. In winter time.
Mate, I cooked Christmas dinner on it last year.
I did Christmas ribs on it year before last, I think, actually, as well.
But I've used it as a charcoal barbecue. I've used it as a smoker. I've used it as a tandoor. I've used it as a pizza oven. I've used it as just about everything you could possibly think of.
But you made naans on it on the wall.
No. I put chicken tikka on a skewer and just put it into
if you drop them in through the chimney rather than opening the lid, you can basically turn it into a.
Could you use it? Could you put stick naans on it?
Yeah.
You could if you wanted them to come out black.
Yeah, a bit of a soot issue there.
You probably want to give it a good clean before doing that, but
mate, yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd need to get the old power washer out and clean the inside before you did naans on it. But it's cooked everything I've asked it to. I used it as a pizza oven before I got the uni, and to be fair, the versatility is phenomenal. They're just amazing, really, really, really good. And I think we've kind of covered sort of what sort of barbecuing we all do at the same time as what barbecues do we own.
We did those both together, didn't we?
One thing that I've got coming in the post from the land of China is I've got a cold smoking thing which is coming because I had Tricky's nuts in my mouth. I have to say the Tricky's nuts tasted really good.
Is that
Were they smoky? Were they smoky and salty?
They were smoky, salty, and weirdly, they were covered in some sort of dry rub.
Chris, is this a spiral thing?
Yeah.
And then you put the sawdust in it, and it
You put fruit. I'm going to be using mostly apple and cherry dust, and basically you just pack it in there, and then you put a tea light under it, and it lights it, and then you take the tea light out after about 15 minutes, and then just let it slowly work its way around.
From my limited experience with the cold smoker so far, the favourite ones for me definitely apple and cherry. Maple is really good, but the maple is very sticky and quite reluctant to burn, so you normally need to do a little bit of a mix with that. So I tend to do a 50-50 blend of either one of the fruit woods or oak with the maple to just encourage
apple and maple
along.
Right, here's a question.
Oak's
that's
really
my
good.
favourite.
I really enjoyed oak.
Oak's decent. Sorry, go on, Andy.
Are you going to smoke malt?
No.
Nope.
Why the hell would anybody do that?
Because, barbecuing.
Seriously, how long have you been on this podcast?
I don't want to make a beer with smoked malt, to be honest. But so I'm probably not going to do that. But I love my cold smoker. The problem is, Chris, is depending on what you're planning on cold smoking, is kind of the wrong season to do it.
Yeah.
Because of course you can't really be doing anything that's going to spoil if.
People say that, but there seems to be mixed opinions on certain. A lot of people say, you can't do the bacon when it's a certain temperature, but other people say, well, once it's cured, if it's in a smoky environment, that's kind of
aseptic
be the right word to use, Chris, if it's being smoked?
It's definitely antiseptic.
Antiseptic, yeah.
Well, I think also if you use Prague powder in your cure, then I think that it tends to be a lot safer in the danger zone. But
have you done bacon?
I've done two or three batches of bacon. I've also done smoked salmon. Did that at Christmas, and that is absolutely amazing.
Why can't you just go to the supermarket and buy a smoked salmon? Why?
Because it tastes so much bloody better. So much better. And I reckon come next Christmas, I'm going to go to Costco and buy myself like a whole side of salmon. And I'm going to cure all of that and smoke that. And it's going to be, I bloody love smoked salmon.
Yeah, me too.
I've got to say the smoky bacon as well, compared to just your standard supermarket offering. It's it's not just because of the smoking it yourself. It's just because you actually, you're getting a cut of loin that's not necessarily had as much water injected into it. So when you cook supermarket bacon, all that white sort of smeg kind of comes out of it.
That's how they cure it. That's how they cure it so much faster because they inject it with a liquid cure.
It's liquid smoke as well, isn't it? I believe that they use for the supermarket stuff. So
Smoky Joe's.
There's a massive difference as well between a wet cure and a dry cure.
Yeah,
because all the bacon that we have, it all comes from a specific company called Viking, and they only do dry cured bacon. So I buy it 2.5 kilos at a time in a big pack, and that's the bacon that I use. I'm still trying to get the wife to agree to let me smoke some loin. She's not exactly
smoking.
My missus comes from a long line of pig farmers, as she constantly tells me, and I love bacon. I love bacon.
So hang on, what's the issue if she's from a line of pig farmers?
She won't have it. Bacon? She just won't have it. She's like, well, the butchers or the supermarket do it better, and I'm like, well, you've not seen what I can do.
Literally, my first amateurish attempt was this is way better than supermarket bacon.
Straight away. Chris, you need to do it. You need to do it in secret. Give it to her, and then she'll go, "Oh, this bacon's amazing." And you'll go, "Yeah, I made that."
You've met my wife.
For me, it's just the way when you cook the homemade stuff, and you end up with a nice thick, juicy bit of bacon that hasn't just shriveled up to like the size of a bacon frazzle, like under the grill. That's the difference.
So, as someone who's never done this, right? How would you start? Would you buy just a big bit of ham or what? Or
you just
and
get
do you have to cut
like
it
a
yourself?
loin joint.
Right.
The slicing bit you have to do yourself, yeah, but you keep it as a whole joint initially, and then you basically, like, I think.
So do you smoke
what
it as
me
a
and
joint?
Owen have done?
Do you smoke it as a full joint, or do you smoke it?
Yeah.
Slices?
You keep it as a full joint literally until it's ready, and then you slice it up. So
yeah, you cure it.
smoking.
You cure it as an entire joint. What I tend to do is buy, like, I get down to the butcher and I buy a big old bit of loin like this, and then I'll cut it into like 4 bits. Only that my pack bags aren't actually that big.
Yeah.
But that then means that I can do different cures.
So wait, what's
add
a cure?
flavors.
Is that salt? Are you salt
and sugar and prague powder if you want to use it.
That's the most simplest cure is just that bit of salt and sugar.
And what's the fancy stuff you're doing, Owen?
Oh, like sometimes I do like barbecue rub. I've done like maple syrup, bourbon, paprika and coffee. Just a classic kind of bay leaf kind of thing.
What's your favourite one so far, Owen?
I really like the coffee and paprika. I think that works really nicely.
Okay, nice. I've dabbled with a few different things, but I've not quite found anything yet that I prefer to just a fairly standard cure. Like, I'll add a bit of sort of pepper and thyme, usually the salt and sugar thing, but most of the other experiments I've done, I'm sort of like, oh, okay, this is good, but I think I'd rather just have a straight bacon. I did a chipotle one, to be fair, which was pretty good. If you like a little bit of heat on there as well.
Yeah, I haven't gone spicy. Only that, like, the kids and stuff are going to eat probably the bacon and things. But one thing I have found is I personally, like, I've adjusted my cure to be like slightly more salt heavy than sugar, because I actually prefer.
I've done exactly the same thing as well.
Yeah,
I went to 3%. I mean, that's probably like being brought up on the supermarket bacon, which probably is a bit more salty. I was just kind of like, I've got a little bit more. Salt in it, but I do sort of 3% with the salt now. Have you gone to that or a bit more?
Yeah, I think it's probably I've gone like 75 to 25% salt to sugar, and then I probably go about 3.5 grams, 3.5%. Sorry, of the total weight of the loin. But I do find with like the flavorings you add, they tend to be. They tend to be quite subtle. Yeah. Unless you get the slices that are like on the outside, and then they're quite powerful. So I think actually in reality, there's kind of adding flavorings to the bacon. It's like you don't sort of eat the bacon and go, "Wow, that tastes like schnozberries." You know.
Is this why bacon's so salty? Because of the curing?
Yes.
Yeah. Correct.
There you
Mind
go.
blown.
Oh
anyway,
my god!
We've been talking about bacon for way too long.
This is very much like a Sunday school class for Andy, isn't it?
Yeah, this is, and for the rest of our listeners as well, maybe.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys on there who've made their own bacon.
I don't think so.
We knew this was going to go off on a tangent. We've already gone off down a massive bacon rabbit hole.
Bacon
it's all part of the process.
Got bacon is like everything's better with bacon.
Literally, including ice cream, as I discovered the other day.
Bacon ice cream.
I had maple ice cream with bacon bits on it.
Oh.
And it was
dirty.
Oh, mate. I mean, I felt like I was doing all kinds of nasty things when I was eating that. It was fantastic. I'm like,
you felt a tiny bit perverted.
I'm like, I've got to. And in fact, I went back for another one. It was that good.
Oh, that's awful. One of my favorites is pancakes, and
maple syrup,
like kind of
bacon.
like American pancakes or Scotch pancakes. bacon and maple syrup, and it's just so good. That sweet, salty vibe.
I got a bit carried away with the American pancakes and bacon when I put cheese on them last pancake day. And it was great for like the first 2 mouthfuls, and then I could feel the arteries like blocking up while I was eating it.
Your heart starts to get a wee bit sore. Starting to get
start rubbing it while you're like, oh,
it's like one of those.
But it tastes so good.
It's one of those Simpsons Homer scenes where like his heart kind of talks to him like, "Stop doing this."
Yeah, no more.
If ever my kids are at the point where, you know, let's say we've had a really bad Saturday, kids have been a pain, I've been trying to do stuff, and you get a bit short with your kids. You feel bad about it when they've gone to bed. Sunday morning is always American pancakes with bacon and maple syrup. And I know full well that as soon as I say, "Hey kids, what do you want for breakfast?" And they'll go, "Cocoa Pops, toast, I want a banana." I go, "You fancy some pancakes with bacon and maple syrup?" And they're always like, "Yes!"
Yeah.
So they're just like mega hyper afterwards.
The number of times I've cooked that while the wife's been in bed, and then you start the bacon going, and she wakes up.
Yeah,
funny that.
Like
funny that.
She's like, "Meerkat." Mm-hmm. It is quality.
Amazing.
One thing that we've not covered, and I don't know if you've got one of these yet, Andy, is the application of sous vide alongside barbecue. Do you have a sous vide, Andy?
I don't think. Well, what is a sous vide? Where you basically
you have a really big sous vide.
You've got a very large sous vide machine.
Exactly. So you could set a kettle up and then vacuum pack and then cook it. But I've not. No, I don't think I've really got into sous vide.
I had to buy a sous vide stick because the S40 wasn't cutting it. So,
for our listeners, Tricky transformed his S40 that he got given to review as his new sous vide.
Temperature control wasn't up to scratch. It just couldn't handle it.
The variance was too large. Honestly, sous vide's a game changer. Like sous vide steak. I've sous vide'd an entire like a Jacob's ladder.
Oh, how did that come out?
With like, and I made this like red wine, like jus to go in there, and I sous vide it for like, I don't know, 24 hours or something.
What temperature do you do it? Is it like 50 odd degrees or something?
I can't remember what the temperature is. Somewhere between like 50 and 60 degrees.
If you want like steak, you know, sort of rare, you go 50, and then it'll bring it up the last couple of degrees for.
What's the thinking behind sous vide? Just it obviously it retains the juices.
The main thinking behind sous vide is to hold the piece of meat at a temperature at which internal things like sinew and stuff like that will begin to break down without overcooking the meat.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, when I cook a steak, because of having 2 kids and a wife who prefers a steak a little bit more than still mooing, I tend to go 55 degrees in the sous vide for about 3 hours. And then at the end, just get either a griddle pan as hot as I can, or as I did the last time, just throw a shitload of charcoal into the Kamado, light it, and get it up to 370 degrees. And then put the meat on the charcoal.
Oh, dirty steaks.
Mate,
I've still not brought myself to do the dirty steak approach.
It needs to be glowing white, Tricky. Okay, if it ain't white, don't do it. But
apparently, it's better if you can do it on wood rather than on coal.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
It's a little bit cleaner that way.
Yeah,
but
less ash.
But it's bloody fantastic. All you've got to do is just get that char on the outside. Timmy Jenkins uses a flamethrower. I believe Tricky's got the same flamethrower.
I've got one that I literally won in one of his raffles, the Sear Pro, but I use it mainly just for scaring the neighbours now.
a really good way of doing the searing is if you've got a charcoal starter, fill that up.
That'd work.
Right, and then just put a grill over the top. As long as you're not cooking something too big, if it's just a couple of steaks, like that gets super hot. But when you take the steaks out or whatever you've sous vide'd, Andy, you get it out of the bag, and honestly, it does not look appealing.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looked
it
really
looks
grey.
like-
Yeah,
I don't know.
Looks
It
like
looks like
road
that's
grey.
why you have to
Whatever.
get it really high heat.
But as soon as you sear it, then you're like, oh, now it looks like a steak.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed with that, I don't know if anyone else has done this, when you initially slice into it, sometimes you sort of go, oh, fuck, it's massively overdone. And then, like, as soon as the oxygen hits it, then the color comes
Yes.
into the meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the first couple of times I did it, I was like, what the fuck? I cooked it to 50 degrees and it's like medium well, and just sort of blossoms into that like pink sort of, rare, medium rare color, which was
With a
quite
bavette steak,
interesting.
that doesn't happen. With a flat
Yeah.
iron steak, it happens because the bavette is much more open texture. It doesn't happen, but with a flat iron, that very much happens. And when I did a cowboy ribeye,
Or if you've got a really thick steak where it just
Yeah.
can't get through to the middle.
but with the cowboy ribeye, we sous vide that for 5 hours at 55, and then literally screaming hot into the griddle pan. I thought it was on fire at one point. There was that much vapor coming off of it, but that did exactly the same thing. I sliced it, and I'm like, oh, shit, it's overdone, and then it just bloomed, and I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah, I reckon one thing I've not done is like put some butter in to the sous vide
Every time, butter and garlic.
You see, like I haven't done that in the past, and then I've eaten the steak. Weirdly, the steak's been slightly dry.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand how, if I've cooked it in its own juices, how is this steak tasting dry?
Because when you pull it out of the bag, all those juices are still in the bag.
Yeah, and I think it needs kind of that fat, sear it, then cover in a bit of butter or whatever, and then leave it to rest, and then you just that's how you get the real juicy kind of. Unless you're buying like Wagyu or whatever.
Is anyone else's mouth drilling at the minute?
I'm going to say, I'm going to have another rib. You guys carry on. I brought.
In the meantime,
I'm regretting not having a plate of food in front of me now.
Can I just give a shout out to Gary Hughes, who very kindly sent me some beer mail.
Oh, nice.
Alongside the legend that is Brewcat Brewery, Richard Brooks, also sent me beer mail this week. So VOC Homebrew, Gary Hughes, sent me 3 beers, and I'm just enjoying his House APA, which is Cascade Citra Mosaic Hot Side and Cascade Zacca Mosaic and Citra. In the dry hop, it's 5.1%. It's got a nice amount of IBUs to it, a little bit of crystal. And Gary, this is a real peach. Thank you very much for sending it to me.
Nice.
Super creamy. It's a lovely creamy beer, and some nice bitterness. And overall, great beer.
That sounds great. I don't think I've ever had any beer mail from Gary.
That's because he doesn't like you, Tricky.
And this is why you're
the Shillington
exactly. He's a shiller.
The Shillington strikes again.
That's right. He was shilling as well earlier today. Were you not, Tricky?
I was very much shilling, yeah. But in the pursuit of research, obviously.
Hang on, Trick. Before you move on to your shilling, Brett Simmons has just asked a very pertinent question that relates to sous vide. He's asked,
that is a good question, actually.
Does it have any effect on the texture of the steak? Well, I will say quite happily that bavette steak sous vide at 55 for 3 hours and then literally seared to within an inch of its life on the hottest thing on earth was very much like eating a slightly grainy fillet. It was that soft. And Lukey Stevens, who we refer to a lot on the podcast, Lukey's a good friend of the podcast. He did a rump steak, which is well renowned for being, if you overcook it, it's a bit like boot leather. He put her big rump steak into a sous vide, and when he ate it after it had been in the sous vide, after it had been seared, he said it had the texture of fillet. It was that soft. With bavettes, which is an incredibly tough cut of meat unless you cook it properly, I found that it was just amazing. It was so soft and good. It was so good that my daughter stole 3 slices of mine off my plate, and she's 3. So she ate hers and then ate mine.
I think what's great is when you know what you're doing, like when you've got a whole bunch of different approaches to cooking particularly beef and steaks, and all the equipment to do it, is you can get any cut, even the cheaper ones, like flank steak and skirt steak and hanger steak and bavette steak and flat irons or whatever, right? If you know what you're doing, you can get that steak absolutely singing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot to be said for, like, my wife always says to me, like, she can't eat steak in a restaurant anymore because I've literally ruined it.
And to be fair, that's a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing, but
saves you a fortune.
Well,
Yeah,
we have a very good steakhouse actually in the middle of Wakefield. It's called the Cowshed, and it's very, very, very good. But I've been in there for a ribeye and had a good sized ribeye, and it still had that. And you'll know if you eat a lot of ribeye, it's that kind of chewy, fatty texture, which is good. Don't get me wrong; it has its place. But I've cooked ribeyes in the sous vide at home for a fraction of the price. No, it's 42 quid for their king ribeye at the Cowshed with all the accoutrements. And don't get me wrong, it's a good steak, but it still has that chewy texture. For a tenner from Lidl, I got a cowboy ribeye, sous vide it, cooked it at home, fed 4 people, and I thought it was better than anything that I've had.
Mate, I'm sold on cowboys. I bought 2 at Costco in a pack together, 20 quid.
You can't argue with that.
10 quid each, and each one will. The last one I cooked, it feeds 4. In fact, I think it might have even fed 5 of us, 2 which were kids. But beautiful, really, really nice. Tomahawks are great, but they're a bitch to sous vide because you got an enormous bloody bone hanging off it.
Yeah, they are a nightmare.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think I struggle with the idea of actually paying for a steak in a restaurant now because I'm just like,
what's the point?
90% of the time I'm going to be disappointed, and the 10% of the time I'm going to be disappointed because I've had to pay 3 times as much to get the equipment.
Kind of not totally dissimilar to like beer, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, given this is a beer podcast, it is exactly the same as beer.
You're going to get a pint of what's called an IPA, and you've not heard of it before, and then you try it, and you're like, yeah, that's a bit shit. I can make better beer than that.
I think we've all been there, haven't we? Just to come back to the Brett Simmons question on the texture, I think yes, it can, but you're in control of that because it's all time based, isn't it? So, there's a really good website on sous vide steak cooking that I've forgotten the name of, but it was one of the first things I found when I got the sous vide machine and started experimenting with it. But basically, the longer you leave it, the more it will tenderize and break down the meat. So if you do it for the minimum time, it will be closer to what it would be like if you just slapped it in the pan and cooked it perfectly to that doneness that you wanted. If you leave it for a bit longer, then it will become more and more tender. So if you have something like like the rump steak that Luke was doing, then you might want to go for a longer time in the sous vide. If you're doing something like a fillet steak, then I guess maybe you want to go more towards the shorter sous vide time to stop it going too mushy. Maybe
I disagree with that trick. I think a fillet, and I've yet to do this, but I intend to do it because I love a good fillet steak.
I'm speculating as I've never actually cooked a fillet sous vide, but go on.
I honestly think that with the texture of a fillet being as soft as it is, because it's a muscle that doesn't really do much in the way of work in the cow.
Yeah.
I still think that there is an element of maybe not toughness, maybe not sinewyiness, but definitely firmness within a fillet. You have to be very, very skilled to cook a fillet steak properly. A lot of people go the wrong way and they go really thin and try and flash fry it.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go a bit thicker and get a really good sear on the outside for that caramelization. I think if you were to sous vide for about an hour and a half at maybe 50 degrees with a fillet, and then literally get it screaming hot either on the coals or on a whatever they're called, the griddle pan, like, you know, literally at the point where it's smoking, I think you would end up with a steak that probably tastes better than what you would get in most restaurants. That's just my personal opinion. I intend to try it, but I do think that the sous vide
Which
process,
bit are you disagreeing about? Sorry.
I'm disagreeing with the fact that by sous videing a fillet past the point of simply getting it to temperature, which is what I assumed you were saying.
Yeah.
I think that there is still some more tenderness to be added before the mushy stage.
Oh, I think there's quite a bit of margin. Don't get me wrong. I think you can.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I'm talking like hours here, sort of.
Oh,
like
no.
2 versus 6, or something like that, rather than like pulling it instantly because it's hit 50 degrees or whatever. But
yeah,
I think we should just rock paper scissors it.
I honestly think this is
ready? 1, 2, 3.
I still think that we should basically go for. I think with the experimental side of cooking, especially with sous vide. Incidentally, don't try and sous vide jacket potatoes; it don't fucking work. I genuinely think
pressure cook,
exactly, definitely. I think that there is definitely some improvements to be made to the texture of a fillet based upon using a sous vide and then a really hard, screaming hot pan. That's just my opinion. I'm going to try it. I'm going to waste the 15 quid on a piece of fillet and do it.
Why not?
Cool.
Why not?
See, I take it the reason you use the stick, the Inkbird stick thing, is because obviously if you're doing this for 3 hours, you don't really want to be running an element, a 2.5 kilowatt element for 3 hours.
I moved on from using the S40 for it, because I was having to put like fucking 20 litres of water in there just to get it to a level where I could actually put anything in.
Especially the cost of electricity right now.
Yeah, right. But with the SV sticks, like any pot that's big enough to hold the thing in a packet is big enough to SV in, as long as you can get the stick in along.
Yeah. Right. We've talked about sous vide long enough.
Just literally
complete it, mate.
Few seconds. So for anybody who's interested in buying a sous vide, don't be tempted to go to Amazon or any place like that. There is a shop on eBay that sells the Inkbird, the latest version, the ISV 200W with the orange screen, and it sells it for less than 70 quid. Right? So don't be tempted to go. They are directly imported from China with the correct plug. They work, they're flawless, they're amazing. Everything's done on an app. Have a look on eBay before you try buying from anywhere else.
Oh, money.
It is a lot of money. I think they retail for about 120 quid.
Oh,
you can get them for a lot less than that, and they are phenomenal.
Jeez.
Right. Should we move on to charcoal and wood?
Yeah. Don't hit me, Owen. I'm sorry.
Also, you need a vacuum sealer.
I'm just conscious that we've been talking about
that's a good point.
What about charcoal then, guys? What's your go-to?
So I'm gonna put a statement out here. I don't think, as long as you're like above a certain level in terms of quality, I don't think the charcoal matters as far as flavor goes. You see a lot of people online talking about, I got this charcoal and it imparted this flavor to the food, or my food was too smoky, blah 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 blah. As far as I'm concerned, as long as you're like above a certain point where the charcoal is just utter shite and it's not burning properly or whatever, I don't think that, for me, has ever been a thing. It's just, it varies the heat and the temperature, and as long as you control the barbecue properly, i.e. you've actually set it up properly and it's burning clean, I don't think the charcoal affects the flavor. But the different brands of charcoal will have different burn characteristics in terms of which ones are suitable for low and slow versus quick and hot cooking or whatever.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So
can I ask some questions? Can I ask questions? Because as an amateur sort of, you go to the supermarket and you can buy briquettes. Yeah, it's normally that's your charcoal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
charcoal briquettes.
I would say generally don't use briquettes. They take an age to light.
Maybe, but I've never used them on the Kamado.
And they're not natural, right? Like they're just being compressed, and they're just, and can I just make the point that everyone do yourselves a favour and do not buy those self-lighting.
Oh, with the shrapnel in it.
Yeah, like it's just impregnated with lighter fluid, and that will
Tastes
come
rotten.
through in the flavour of your food. It's just don't do it, right? Just buy yourself some good quality lump wood charcoal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go low and slow, try and get one like bags with big chunks in it. And I think ideally, if it says restaurant grade on it, then you're normally good to go.
I think the main difference between the charcoals, from my experience, has been softwood and hardwood.
Mm.
Yeah,
like
100%.
there's a company that I'm not going to name out there because I won a crate of it in a raffle, which is made with beechwood, and it's fantastic if you want to set fire to the universe because it gets so hot so fast, and it just burns literally hotter than the temperature of the surface of the sun. But if you want to do a long cooking a brisket or whatever, you need hardwood. You need something with some density, something that's going to give you a really good progression and a really good sort of ability to maintain a stable temperature for a long period. So just aim for hardwood for that. There's a lot of brands out there that are hardwood. I'm going to nail my sort of colours to the mask, and I'm going to say Big K. It's good stuff. It's very cheap if you find the right place. And I found that I always get a really consistent clean burn with Big K. Other brands are available.
Just following up on that. Sorry, go on, Owen.
I like Big K, and I've had good results with. I'm not sure what brand it is, but those restaurant grade bags that are just blue
ones.
Blue ones.
Is that
They've been
Fogon?
pretty good. No, I don't think so. I've recently just bought some Fogon charcoal, and although the bits haven't been huge, I've had some pretty decent cooks of them. I think I cooked a brisket last weekend. I cooked a 3.5 kilo brisket. It was on for about 8 hours, and I didn't need to refuel, so I got an 8-hour burn out of one basket.
That's pretty good
with Fogon, which is pretty solid.
Yeah,
it started to die out after that point. But
what about coconut shells? What's the script for them?
Don't know. I haven't used them.
It's a very unique flavour, very suited to cooking chicken, weirdly enough.
I think just coming back to the thing with the big chunks, that's another thing that people seem to get obsessive on with the barbecue groups on Facebook. Say, oh, I bought this bag of charcoal and it's got a lump of charcoal the size of my head in it, and so this is now the best charcoal brand ever. It's like, well, yeah, that's Kamado. Great, but you can put small chunks of charcoal into a Kamado and it will just, you control the vents as to how fast it burns. So yes, it will make a difference to an extent. The bigger chunks are better for low and slow. But coming back to Big K, I've just recently cracked open my first bag of their Marabou charcoal.
That's some good stuff.
And when you initially open it, you go, "Oh, this looks a bit bitty and small," but it's from a
Jamaican plant.
Is it? It's a tree, but it's kind of like more of a shrub-like.
It's more of a bush kind of tree.
Bush, yeah, type thing. So the chunks would have like sort of knotty little gnarly bits of thing, but when you actually get the charcoal out, it's like it's fucking dense as fuck. This proper, solid, dense kind of hardwood charcoal. And when you burn it, like the first time I used it, I sort of opened it up afterwards. Like, oh, that looks like it's all turned to ash. And just sort of tapped it with the stirring stick for the Kamado, and a little bit of ash fell off, and then there was just basically all the charcoal was still there.
Yeah, it is fantastic stuff.
It doesn't burn away like for ages. So
and it gives a really interesting flavour as well.
I've not really noticed any difference in flavour, but
cook some chicken with it, Tricky.
Yeah,
it makes a massive difference with chicken.
Okay,
it's good shit.
So, but in terms of that whole obsession with like the big chunks of things, I've had nothing come out that bag that's any bigger than a tennis ball. at best, and it's probably the longest lasting charcoal that I've used in terms of slow burn for low and slow cooking and stuff like that. So I think basically going back to Chris saying like hardwood versus softwood, that's probably more important than like how big the chunks are, because the brand that Chris talked about specifically, I've had a few bags of that as well, and there were some literally tree trunk sized lumps in the bags that I got, and that was great until you set fire to them, and then they just like disintegrated into small pieces, and then like whoosh, and
you've got
burnt
Vesuvius
away
in your
within
Kamado.
5 minutes. So and the temperature spikes were actually quite extreme with that charcoal as well for me.
Yeah, that's kind of what you want to avoid with low and slow, isn't it? I think actually in getting the really, really big chunks is just quite annoying because it just doesn't fit in your barbecue. I had a chunk in one of those blue bags, my last one, that just and it literally is huge. It's like bigger than my head. And I'm gonna just have to take a hammer to it. But equally, it's like you don't want to open a bag and you've just got dust and like tiny little pebbles of charcoal, because it's not going to actually sit in your charcoal basket, and B, it will just burn up really fast. Yeah. So you've got to have like at least good sort of fist-sized chunks. I think it's ideal.
Yeah, fist size is about right, and with the Kamado as well, because it draws air in through the bottom and then vents it out the top. So it's like a bottom feeder. If you have too many really small bitty pieces, you can end up with a choked flow. Any kind of bottom air feeding barbecue, whatever it is, whatever brand, whatever type, you can end up with a choked flow, and that's an issue because you're not going to get a good clean burn.
Yeah.
What kind of? Sorry, on you go.
I use I've got a Pro Q, the Frontier, so that has like a charcoal basket, so like something you can physically take out, and it just so happens to fit perfectly into the Aldi Kamado. So I actually use that. So I don't have all the coal sat at the bottom. So like I never have flow problems. It's absolutely perfect.
How much do you guys pay for your charcoal?
Oh mate, it's gone up big time in the last 6 months.
Too much, yeah.
£18.79 for 15 kilos.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's expensive. I think, what did I pay for Fogon? I think I paid maybe about 35 quid for 25 kilos or something like that.
Yeah, so it's that kind of £1 to £2 a kilo sort of thing. Is really
I reckon it's probably £1 to £2 for like a full cook, which you're probably going to get like 6, 7, 8 hours out of.
So
it's probably about
where do you guys stand on the smoking woods thing? Have you progressed to the point of using the chunks rather than the chips? Because that's one thing that I would say is my tip as far as smoking woods go, is don't bother with the bags of chips, just get the big chunks.
Yep.
Always get the chunks.
Chunks is the way to go.
Then there's the whole argument of like what the different types of wood do flavor wise. I know there's a lot of people that would say, cherry applewood will taste totally different to hickory or oak. I'm not convinced in terms of hot smoking whether you can tell that much of a difference.
Oh, you can.
I think if you had it side by side, I think if you had some ribs smoked with oak and cherry and apple and all the rest of it, then I think you would notice a difference.
I think that's probably a good point. Like, having never been able to do an A/B style test like that, trying to remember what the subtleties of the smoke on one set of ribs versus the one you've done 2-3 weeks later is probably pretty challenging, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've actually only ever used oak and apple.
Yeah. Do you have a preference out of the two?
I think it depends what I'm cooking. I think for pork, I prefer apple. I think for beef, I prefer oak. But I think apple's just a really good all-rounder generally.
Yeah. I would agree with that. To be fair, actually, I think one thing I would say in terms of the difference between them, I think maybe more perhaps not so much flavor wise, but there's definitely a difference in intensity of the smoke between different woods. So certain types of wood might just impart more smoke.
Oak definitely gives more smoke.
Oak is probably one of the heaviest ones that I've used, as far as the ones that are, you know, sort of. I think hickory is similar in terms of being quite a heavy smoke flavor.
Mesquite's pretty damn smoky as well. Gotta say.
I think actually when it comes to wood, like less is more. Like I think it's very easy. Like when I was early on, I think I put too much wood in. Yeah. And I think it depends what you're cooking. Like if you're hitting like a brisket, right, you can hit a decent amount of wood at that thing. If you're just cooking a rack of baby back ribs, I think you've got to be a little more reserved the amount of wood that you use, and I think you've got to make sure it's smoking clean as well. I think I've fallen into that trap, kind of putting the meat on too soon when you've got like plumes of dirty smoke, and it just comes across as like really acrid, nasty kind
ashtray
of
flavor rather than
kind of quite creosote, as opposed to just like a nice kind of light licking of smoke to the meat.
I think Andy's taking notes.
Yeah, I'm just, you know what, I'm like that. Pulled pork.
Going, oh no, it's another hobby that I've got to spend £1,000 on.
I'm looking at it because it was it pulled pork. I think something like that, like a low and slow pulled pork, like you say, smoking it, all that sort of thing. I think something like that would be absolutely.
The thing about it, and I will
just
say
drilling
this,
at the minute, he's just talking about all this food, and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry now.
I will say this to you right now, Andy. You know how addictive brewing is?
Oh.
I think, personally, for me, and it might just be that I have a slightly addictive personality, I think smoking and barbecuing, especially when it comes to Kamados and things like Master Builts and Pro Qs, is just as addictive. You will find yourself, like, when you're working from home thinking, I'm due to get onto this meeting at 9:15. I reckon if I fire up the Kamado at like 8 o'clock, I can have that brisket on and doing its thing. And then I've got that meeting, then I can check on it at lunchtime. Then I can do my afternoon's work. And at 5:30, we can have brisket. I guarantee it, because I've got my sous-vide literally on an app on my phone. I vacuumed down steak, put it in the water bath, right? Like just with standard water out the tap, gone to work, and at 12:30 had an alarm set on my phone to say, turn the sous vide on. And then I've come home, there's been perfectly sous vide steak, and as soon as I get home, griddle pan onto the big hob, as soon as it's screaming hot, pull it out, pss, pss, steak, done.
Chris is all about multitasking.
Right. That's why I can have a wank and have a shit at the same time.
Good.
Oh.
That's too much.
I'm joking, by the way. Nobody can do that. Your body don't work that way. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful hobby. But be prepared, mate, because it's going to cost you a fucking fortune.
Aye, and bloody wood.
Oh yeah. I get my wood, weirdly enough. I know we're talking about wood at the moment. So I get my wood from Amazon. I get my wood from Amazon, and it comes in 25 kilo boxes. And I pay, I think it's about 14 quid a box. And it comes as really good chunks, which on occasion I've had to take the axe to.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I think I've got exactly the same box of wood.
I can't remember the name of the place.
I tend to cut mine up with an axe,
who are quite good.
because you don't need huge chunks.
No.
Like you can just get like almost kindling size bits of wood, which is just enough to add that smoke.
And then, do you guys? So talking about, was it the chimney that you get to starter
chimneys?
Starter chimney, right? So you would just put it all in there.
You don't need that if you do get a Kamado. You don't
use that in a Kamado.
No, I don't use it.
So what do you guys do? Just put a bit of. How do you
start what you
it?
want to get is the little wax, woody firelighter things, or just basically a blowtorch that you can light it with.
Or
Very cool.
Graham Hughes swears by just, which I've tried a few times, just get some kitchen roll and just putting a bit of oil on it.
Sunflower. Yeah. I was doing that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah,
Dynamite.
that
That
You
works.
scrunch
really
it
well.
up, and
Yeah.
that actually works really well.
It
You're
keeps it so
basically
it doesn't burn
making a
out that
wick.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah, effectively.
That's what I do under my chimney. Basically, yeah.
It works great. That works really
The
well.
start chimney, yeah.
Can I just say to Brett the Bollard, that is a picture I never, ever want to see again. I'm not going to explain any more than that.
And now everyone goes onto the chat to see that one.
I never want to see that again, Brett, ever. There's a level of wrong, and that's wrong. No, don't do it. Don't do it. No, Andy, don't.
No.
So yeah, my favourite woods, by the way, weirdly enough, I like damson wood. I like plum wood when it comes to smoking, especially, weirdly enough, pork belly.
Where the fuck are you getting damson wood from? You got some
From my brother-in-law with his 3 damson trees in his garden.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say you got some gourmet fucking like smoking wood supply that they're offering damson.
No, it takes a long time to dry out, though. I tell you, it takes like nearly a year to dry out, but it's bloody fantastic. Other than that, it's apple and cherry, a little bit of mesquite every now and then. The wife likes hickory, so we just get chunks of that, and away you go. It's perfect. It's bloody good wood. So I don't know what Andy's taking pictures of here. This podcast is going to hell in a handbasket. Now,
where are we?
I think we're at cold smoking, but we've already covered it.
We've already done that. We've done that.
So let's do the commercial, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh God, Andy's watching bloody Eurovision. No, he's not saying anything.
Well,
I can't hear it though.
You get commercial out because I'm going for a whiz.
Yeah, I'm going to get the commercial out. I'm going to give Brewcake Tap another pimp. I got to say, guys, seriously, Brewcake Tap, get the Brewcake Tap stuff going because they are phenomenal.
Go ahead, put some sort of cheesy tune to it.
I'm not putting any cheesy tunes to anything, mate. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pull out a beer that I've been wanting to drink since the moment it arrived in my house. Okay? I'm not going to start. I'm going to tease people by simply saying this is from Duration Brewery.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to pull out a clean glass for this one. Okay?
Quite right.
I don't have a Duration glass because they don't have any on their shop at the moment. Otherwise, I would have one. But this beer has had me intrigued since the moment I saw it on their website. Let's just say that. So anyway, Andy, seriously, do you think you're going to end up buying a Kamado or something?
Maybe not this year. Okay. I think I'll get use out of my Weber.
You know you can use them in tandem.
I like kegs, mate. Barbecues multiply. They mate.
I quite like this idea, so I don't know about it. So I've been using briquettes for my charcoal. It's Big K briquettes I've got, and it's great because it's just you can just set it nice and low, slow. You can just play about with the vents and get your temp sort of sitting where you want it. But I've not really ventured into the lumpwood side of things, so that's why I was asking the questions tonight, just to see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think briquettes aren't awful, but I think you're going to get a better flavour.
Mm-hmm.
I think briquettes tend to just produce
really smoky.
Just produce quite a bit of heat. They will smoke, but typically, like that's before you get them all fired up. They'll I don't know. Do they burn longer, briquettes?
No.
I just put them round the back.
I'm sure they do. They seem to take a lot bloody longer to light.
Yeah,
that's so you just put them in the chimney.
long.
You put them in the starter chimney, and then you get them all going, and then you just basically put them around the back wall, and then they just seem to just go nice and slow. And then when I've finished cooking, I just shut the vents and then let it cool down. And then next time I go in, there's still, good bits of the briquettes still there. I just chuck them all back in the chimney with some more fresh ones, and away I go again.
Yeah, I mean, I've used briquettes, and I think they're all right. You can use them, but my preference is lumpwood.
I prefer lumpwood because I feel more like a professional when I'm using it.
So I just don't even know any better. So I was just like, is it this stuff?
We're giving you a lot of shit about running a Weber, but to be fair, there's so many people who've started with a Weber and still have it.
Yeah.
They are quite versatile and they are pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
No, you want to get some of that Japanese charcoal. They're sort of you've seen them, like they're sort of long.
Oh yeah, they're like the sticks, aren't they?
Yeah,
bamboo.
No, and they like they're super hot, and they burn for ages.
I might have to try that now. Brett Simmons has asked Tricky if you'll do a video, a step-by-step guide to barbecuing.
Crikey.
I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet.
I've asked you because, let's face it, I'm not going to do one. Owen doesn't have the time to do one, neither do I. So there's only Tricky who's willing to, do these kinds of things.
There's quite a lot of stuff on the shilling list first, to be fair. So
yeah, must chill
the next year or so.
I'll put it on the list, Brett. But don't hold your breath.
Anyway,
there's probably a few other YouTube channels you could follow before mine that will be better anyway.
Yeah, there are a lot of them out
That's
there.
something we should have put in was a point for which barbecue YouTube channels you follow. So let's just quickly do that. Go round barbecue channel you follow on YouTube.
I only follow one,
which is
I can't remember the name of it. It's on my list, and I don't want to deviate from the YouTube studio page that I've got up.
I really enjoy watching Guga Foods.
Yeah,
it's just a bit of a guilty pleasure, but he does some pretty cool experimental stuff. He's really
Barbecue
great.
Pit Boys.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Andy, do you follow any barbecue YouTube channels?
No, it just tends to be the guys that do homebrew and barbecue and the
Yeah.
same sort of thing. I don't specifically follow any.
If you want the proper, like, how to shorten your life by an hour per recipe, then How to Barbecue Right is the channel for you.
Yes.
With Malcolm Reed, aka add a pound of butter to it and it will make it better.
Yeah, add a load of sugar,
plus honey, usually.
Yeah, DJ Barbecue,
honey for the
really
money.
Great.
DJ Barbecue stuff is very, very good. I
There's a
bought
Dutch guy as well, actually, Pitmaster X. Has anyone watched his stuff?
No, but that's going straight on the list because it's got the word X in it.
Yep. Yeah, anyway, they're good. So has everyone got a commercial beer poured now? Can we proceed?
It's done. I'm halfway through.
Can I please go first?
Go on then.
Please let me go first. Okay. This is from Duration Brewing, and it is I Knew We'd Get There, which is their alt beer. Now, it's apparently, according to the Gumph on the back, it is akin to a Kolsch, being an ale that is brewed like a lager. A richer, darker grain bill gives a brighter amber hue to this clean, crisp-bodied beer. The rye brings a peppery note that complements a low hop lingering finish, an ideal beer to pull us out of winter, ready to look ahead to spring. Now, the reason why I've got this is because I'm always looking to expand my universe, and my universe at the moment needs to try rye. I'm hoping there's no Simcoe in this, because if this is bad, I'm going to feel bad because I've got 4 cans. Now,
drum roll.
The clarity, as you would expect, pretty damn good. The flavor, the aroma is quite good. I'm getting a little bit of, I'm getting quite a lot of sweetness on the nose.
You getting that rye spice?
I'm getting a little bit of that rye spice. I'm also getting, weirdly enough, something that smells very much like Tettnang, but I don't think it's Tettnang. I think that's the rye.
Tettnang gate.
Yeah. Right. Let's do it. Okay. Spicy. Really sweet. Like really, really sweet. Very little in the way of hops. Not getting much in the way of hops at all. It tastes... I don't want to say bland, because bland is the wrong word. It tastes like a...
Butthole?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't taste anything like your Ryan Riwaka beer.
Better than that, then.
Oh,
That's actually a really good beer. It's incredibly crisp.
Hang on a minute.
It is.
A rye beer that you like?
Yeah, man. It's really, really crisp. And you get
Crisp
that
and
spicy
sweet.
note. You get that spicy note, but it is really sweet. Honestly, I think it's probably a little bit too sweet for my palate.
As in just a little bit too much, I don't know, like crystal malts or something.
Or some of the caramalts, yeah, something like that.
In there.
It's really got a very, very sweet finish, which is weird considering I've been eating barbecue ribs, which had a very sweet barbecue sauce on them. So, yeah, I like it. I think the thing that I like most about it is the fact that it's so bloody crisp.
Does that just balance out the sweetness, or
Almost.
well, you keep going back for a sip, so
Mate, I'm going in.
I'm confused. Is it crisp or is it sweet? Can it be
it's
both?
both. Can it be
yeah,
both?
Can it really be both?
Well, yeah, I suppose it's a feature.
It is a crispy beer, but there is a lingering sweetness.
Crispy
I mean,
boy.
what do you want me to say? It's aside from that spiciness that you get from the rye, it's a hard shut off on the flavor. So it hits a point and then it just there's no lingering. I like that a lot. I really do like that quite a lot. I think I found a rye beer that I like, boys.
Score out of 10.
High sevens.
High sevens.
I'm going to make a whole series of rye beers so I can send them to you now, Chris.
Don't do that.
Be like Andy's lager series.
Yeah.
Be like
Rye beers that Chris will probably not like.
tricky
will be the time.
Because I'll be getting the rye beer dry hop with Simcoe, hops with Citra.
Oh mate,
with a little bit more
Simcoe and Rawaka in the dry hop. Heavy Simcoe.
Just an exclusively rye beer. Like the only malt you used was rye.
He's going to send me a fucking Rogan beer, isn't he? So it'll be smoked rye as well.
You think you like rye? I'll show you rye.
This is nice.
Smoked in the Kamado.
This is very, very nice.
Lovely stuff.
Honestly, I've had a couple of their beers because I bought a massive case. I would highly recommend that if you haven't had any of their beers, give Duration a shot. Because I've been really, really impressed with the beers that I've had from them. And I'm very impressed with this one, considering it's got rye in it.
How many of their beers have you tried so far?
I've had 3.
Yeah.
How long have Duration been around? They're quite like new on the circuit.
Oh, it's not much fun on the burp.
They've been around for a little while, haven't they?
It's a good few years, I think. I think they're reasonably well established.
It's no fun on the burp, boys. It's no much fun when you get that rye flavour coming back with the burp.
I think they're crowdfunding right now, aren't they?
They are. They're doing a little tour.
Yeah, they're actually at Unity today. Well, they were at Unity today.
Weirdly enough, they're in Leeds on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm trying to organise with the wife to be able to go down, but I don't think it's going to happen, which is a shame. Yeah, that's no fun on the burp, that. I think it needs more hops, I'll be honest.
Somebody else want to do their commercial beer? Or shall I jump in?
In other words, shut the fuck up, Chris.
Okay. You guys know me to be a great enjoyer of Admondson's beers. One of my favourite breweries. Where are Admondson based? Are they Norway?
Denmark,
Sweden.
Sweden.
I think they might be Swedish. And
I'm
sure the
going
chat
Denmark.
will tell me. But this one is a big summer fruity banger. Have a look at the artwork. Lots of fruit. I'll zoom in for you guys. Focus it in. Look at this. Look at this artwork. Oh, yeah. There's melons, strawberries, grapes.
No, it's Norway. It is Norway. You're right.
I thought it was Norway. And this is a blood orange and mandarin creamsicle, is what it's called. And looking at it, looks a bit like a Barocca.
It does.
It's like you've dropped a Barocca in a glass of water.
Impressive head retention as well.
Yeah, very impressive. Look, I'll give it a little swirl, see if we get anything out of it. No, absolutely nothing. Super fruity, as you would expect. It's a very fruit-forward beer. It's got an incredible nose on it. Obviously, super fresh orange. Pithy. Almost strawberry-like. It's very, very nice. And it's ever so slightly sour. So it's got a bit of a sourness to it, although it doesn't say that it's a sour. So I don't know if that's just coming from the fruit additions, just being kind of quite citric in their character. I'm also not really getting the whole creamsicle thing. I was expecting a sweeter beer. It's got some kind of upfront kind of bitterness to it, which I think probably comes from the fruit. Got almost like when you glug on a glass of grapefruit juice, kind of gives you that like upfront bitterness. Obviously, it hasn't got grapefruit in it, but I'd imagine the blood orange and the mandarin kind of just got that citric kind of bite as you drink into it, but it's not as sweet. I was kind of expecting like a real like lactose IPA bomb. And it's not. It's actually much more drinkable and probably closer to a kind of summer sour. That's really enjoyable. Really, really nice. Very drinkable. I think it's hiding its strength at 6.5%. And it's going down a little bit too quick for the ABV. I've got to be honest. My other option, which I could have gone for, was the Verdant Cloudwater mashup, the Allen versus V13 double IPA.
Jeez, Owen.
I'm shocked that you didn't actually choose that one.
That's good your name. But see, no, but that's keep that for the next one.
No, I'll probably just drink it in a minute.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make it to the next
and then
one.
I'll probably fall asleep.
Yeah, you'll get dipped.
Yeah, I'll get dippered, and then
it's dipper time.
By the after party, I'll probably be asleep, so it'll be fine.
Good.
So yeah, I'd recommend Abinson.
Nice.
That's cool.
Who's next?
Inca Fruits.
I've got mine.
Good punnage. Who's next?
That's probably a play.
Andy's in. Andy's in. It looks like an expensive beer.
Oh no, it's a Unity beer.
Yes, it's the May provisions. Is it their side sort of thing for their more, I don't know, spontaneous and saison type beers. Which is so it's how do you say it? Wrestling.
Riesling.
Oh, I've had that beer.
Well, Dale, 7%. Right, Owen, it's insane.
It is fucking amazing, that beer.
See on the nose, You just get it's like an oak character, but I'm getting like whiffs of cinnamon.
No goat.
No. Well,
Where's the goat?
but I think that's what the goat is to me. When I think I've said this before, but the first time I ever experienced a smell like this was Calvados. Basically Calvados, which is I think it's a distilled sort of brandy sort of thing.
Apple
And
brandy.
Distilled cider.
But their
Yeah, it's
cider
apple
is
brandy.
it's like the natural, spontaneous, done in oak casks and stuff like that. And I think that's how I'm getting that
Okay.
pullover from the oak casks and the kind of that sort of yeast character that you get. What was the other things I picked up? Yeah, just super
He's
kind
got
of
notes. He's reading notes.
I took notes.
Are you getting the?
You're taking
the
this shit seriously,
Are you
Andy.
getting the white wine kind of vibe?
Did. So when you go in, it is like grapes, like white wine grapes, nice sourness. I'm still getting that. I'm getting a kind of rhubarb cinnamon sort of thing going on. It's sour, but it's not like super puckering or anything like that. And it just the flavor. See, it just coats your mouth and it just keeps going, sort of thing. It is excellent. So super nice sipper.
I
Definitely.
had one of those. I had one at Brew Club actually a couple of months ago, and because I think they had the guide down that at the brewery at Unity that
The head brewer.
the winery that supplied the grape must.
Oh yeah, the Riesling skins from Charlie Herring Wines.
Yeah, Charlie Herring. Yeah, he was down, and I had it Brew Club, and I was blown away. And I was like, I really need to get into the brewery and buy some of these bottles up because they are off the hook. Like, really, very, very good. So I'd highly recommend to everyone listening to check out Unity's Wild Ale. Very, very, very good.
Yeah, it's the fine ales ones that I had, that they had their sort of spontaneous, very much along the lines. This is very.
I think I might get in and buy 6 bottles or something for when you guys come down in the summer.
Yeah, I thought I can't remember if it was that expensive or not, but this style is something I'm very much attracted to these days, I would say. Yep. Tricky.
Sweet. Surprise, surprise, I've got a beer by Track. This is one of their Fractions series. So they do this this is number 2, so they've only just started doing it. But it's basically a experimental beer series where they incorporate some photographic art and a few there's like a poem on the can as well.
Oh yeah, I've had that one.
And this one is a Ruaka and Waimea IPA, 6.2%. And there's a little bit of detail on the process on the back as well. So it's experimenting with their dry hopping technique. They've added enzymes mid-fermentation along with Ruaka and Waimea to promote biotransformation of bound compounds to increase hop aroma and flavor. I've had a couple of these already because I bought a 4-pack of it, and it's a banger. Like I can tell you that before I even like go and do the taste and everything. But it's the New Zealand hop, just intense, like lime, zesty citrus, little bit of a sort of herbal, maybe lemongrass kind of thing going on there as well, on the aroma. And the like flavor wise, this beer, I think it's like Track's classic approach in terms of like the grist and stuff, just like super pillowy, soft. Definitely lots of sort of oats, I would imagine, in here, or wheat at least, and the Rawaka and Waimea on top of that just sits as a sort of, it's quite citrusy, but also quite soft, kind of juicy kind of flavor there. So it's citrus flavor gives it still a bit of that IPA kind of bite to it, but it's also quite Nipah-ish at the same time. So yeah, most importantly, it's extremely drinkable and really, really nice. So
what's the ABV? It's like 6.2, something like that, isn't it?
6.2, yeah.
Yeah, wow, good memory. I had it a little while ago. I also ordered just a single can, which I was slightly disappointed in myself for only ordering one, because it was an absolute peach. But I imagine
Was it this particular one, or
it was exactly that one.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It was very good. I imagine they're adding like a Romazine, which is quite a popular thing. Yeah, Romazine, and then like I guess like double dry hopping or dry hopping during fermentation. I think it definitely shines in terms of like squeezing out just about everything they can get from that dry hop. Really punches out the glass, doesn't it?
It's got it's definitely got some of the flavors that I associate with Rawaka. Waimea I'm not so familiar with, but I think it's also, you know, got some of those classic sort of New Zealand hop flavors. But it's just, yeah, like you say, punching the flavor out the glass, as opposed to being a bit more sort of, like I said, it's not quite as soft and pillowy in the flavor as the rest of the malt sort of profile might lead you normally with a track beer. Maybe I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but yeah, the hops are sort of, it's almost like West Coasty sort of hop intensity, but still a nice, soft, drinkable Nipah type mouthfeel, I guess.
Just to drag this,
it's great,
back a little bit towards the topic at hand. Has anybody found that when you're eating a really rich barbecue dish, something like a brisket or pulled pork, which can be really quite flavor intense and really quite strong on the taste buds, if you have a beer with quite a good chunk of bitterness while you're eating that, it really does make a difference to the enjoyment of it?
Yeah, it's like sort of balance, isn't it? You kind of want something with like a good bit of bitterness that kind of then goes. It's almost like why you pair brisket with pickles.
Yeah, it's that vinegar note, isn't it?
Yeah, you need something really punchy to cut through the fat.
It's definitely it's almost an acidity thing. It's almost along the lines of that acrid acidity kind of thing, because a lot of West Coast with the bitterness, they can be quite punchy in your face, but I do find that with a brisket or with pulled pork, something with a lot of fat in it, it does cut through it really, really well.
I think like a really nice bitter Czech lager would work quite well.
Budvar, the classic barbecue beer. It is a wonderful,
have we skipped a few points ahead on the list here?
No. It was when you were talking about that beer, when you were saying it had that limey note, but still had the bitterness, but it still was quite soft and pillowy. I just got to thinking, like, I did just a standard barbecue of like burgers and sausages and garlic bread and corn and all that sort of stuff. And I found that with the brisket burgers, they were really quite rich and quite intense. But the beer that I was drinking, I'd actually picked up a 6-pack of Budvar, and just the beer with that particular burger on that day balanced everything right out. And I find personally, as a fat bloke, that it really does help me to eat more barbecue if I've got quite a bitter beer to go with it.
Just get a Saz beer on.
Yeah, something with Saz.
In case there was any risk that you weren't going to eat an enormous amount of barbecue.
Yeah. Hey, weirdly enough, mate, we cooked 2 racks today, and basically there's 3/4 of a rack left in there. and I took some over to my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We did have wedges, salad, grilled pineapple, sweet corn to go with it. But, you know, just one of them things. Just like my brain works in weird ways. You guys know this, okay? And it was just hearing Tricky talk about the good chunk of bitterness with the lime and with the still soft nature. I couldn't help but think, given the topic that we have, that beer would work really fucking well with some beef ribs. That was where my brain went.
Let's skip to the concepts for beer and food pairing, because you're basically in that zone right now, Chris. So
I just you know that my brain is not normal, Tricky. You've done 40, you've done 50 podcasts
that's
with
fine.
me.
I think we don't, you know, we're very fluid here. We can move between the points. There's no need to follow the script. Not that there's an actual script, obviously.
We
Look
have
at the fucking
notes
state of this
that
podcast.
occasionally we touch on.
But I think what you're touching on there, there's a few different approaches to food pairing, isn't there? So there's I think what you're describing is very much like the contrasting sort of approach, where you want something that's going to cut the flavor of the food. So if you have something that's very fatty or very rich, you want maybe something that's more acidic or cutting or sharp flavored to refresh the palate to a certain extent. So in some cases that might be in the majority of like barbecue, you know, the classic is like lager with barbecue. It's going to be quite a crisp, or bitter beer is going to sort of slightly cut the.
No, I agree completely.
As Chris would say, anything German.
Yeah, literally anything German.
Crispy boys.
But you can have other contrasting flavors as well, potentially, that you can think of. So you can go for like the you know, opposites when it comes to sort of food and beer pairing. Equally, you can go for complementary flavors. So a good example of that, I think we've done a few food and beer sort of pairing themed meetings at my homebrew club, and one that I did that worked really well was beef short ribs with a porter, because it was just, there was like that sort of roasty, chocolatey, sort of sweet thing going on, and it was very much flavors from the same palate, but they just sort of, you know, worked together and amplified each other to an extent, and it was a very complementary flavor. So sometimes something that cuts the flavor is good, sometimes it's something that amplifies it, sometimes it's something that contrasts can be good. So it's not always just
it's not just Stella. It's not just Stella with barbecue. So let's face it. You know, the majority of the world seems to think that Stella and Beck's is the way to go, but I think personally there's a lot to say about
Budvar.
Yeah, well, Budvar. Like anything Czech or German, you're pretty much on a winner. But
I think the thing with the Czech lagers, though, is also like there's usually a little bit more of an intense bitterness and more of that hop presence as well. You have a little, rather than your standard cooking lager, like shit that's just going to be, you know, it's just washing the flavor away rather than adding to it. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's like a salty sweet thing as well that might work quite well, which is maybe like your like Belgian blonde or your Belgian double.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is going to work really nicely with quite like a salty meat dish, salty barbecue dish.
A salt beef sandwich with a bottle of Duvel.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn spectacular. Do you know what I mean?
We're talking.
I think a lot of this comes down to everybody seems to think wrongly that only certain areas of your tongue actually prescribe or taste certain types of food. That's utter bullshit, by the way. Every part of your tongue tastes every single type of flavor. But one thing that I have really noticed when I've been experimenting with food and beer, like Chicky said, the contrasting, the complementary, the cutting, you know, anything that kind of gives an opposite kind of flavor, is weirdly enough, this one's for you guys. Next time you have a stew, and I use a lot of shin beef. I love shin beef. I think it's a fantastic cut of meat. If you have a really, really, really rich, kind of deep, dark stew in the middle of winter, right? Try it with a sour. Because I'll tell you, that took me. Weirdly enough, it was a sour that somebody had sent to me in a beer mail, and it was a fruited sour. And I just cracked it as I do whilst I was cooking, and then I finished cooking and I put it on the table. There was like half of it left, and that acidity, that lactic, that fruit, citric acid kind of acidity, even though it was raspberry paired with a fucking beef and vegetable stew with dumplings, it worked so well. It was absolutely phenomenal the way that it just sat on my palate and just did its thing. And it was everything. It was contrasting, it was complementary, and it cut through the fat really well. I just think that whole don't knock it till you've tried it thing kind of works when it comes to the concepts of beer and food.
Well, that's the same kind of concept as like taking pickles and applying that to beef.
Yeah. No, it is, absolutely. Absolutely. But it was a fruited sour, mate. And I would not have put raspberries in that stew.
I mean, that is an odd choice. But well done.
It worked. It was amazing. It was a beautiful flavour.
It was a dare who wins.
Yeah.
Dare who wins?
He who dares wins.
He who dares wins,
So-
Rodney.
So, other than
This is-
Chris's example, has anyone else had an unusual beer and food pairing that they've tried that worked when they weren't expecting it to?
I've got another one for after this.
Okay.
I think like back to Andy's beer review, which is that whole like wild fermented beer.
Yeah.
I think those tend to be very dry.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that same crispness as you might do with a lager, but you've got added complexity in terms of, I don't know, maybe a bit goatee or just adding maybe a bit more complexity that the food might not provide.
Oh, and do you know what I would like with this right now? Hog roast and a roll with some, what do you call it? Apple. What's the sauce? Yeah.
Sauce.
Applesauce.
Applesauce.
Maybe that's the way to think about it. It's like whenever you have a beer,
What would go?
like just go like, oh, what food might go really well with this?
Mm-hmm.
If
And
you
it
want,
just starts to get you thinking, doesn't it?
if you want an off the fucking wall one, weirdly enough, my kids love hot dogs.
Oh,
And we get our hot dogs from Aldi because when you're going through 16, the cheaper the better kind of thing. Plus they're actually really good.
Chris, plus the.
When you say hot dog, are we talking Frankfurters or actual,
We're talking Frankfurters.
They
Right?
do the best. They've got the best selection.
They are phenomenal. However, here we go. Hot dog, caramelized onions, mustard and ketchup with an impy stout. Dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty, but my God, it works.
Yeah.
The chocolatey nature, the kind of the deep roasty character.
So was that the feedback you got from the kids? Like,
Yeah,
this
I
hot dog was
really liked
so
it.
much better when you gave me the impy stout with it.
Yeah,
Dad.
that's what it was. No, it was weird. I was drinking an impy. It was actually my last bottle of CBS.
And then Chris is there to clear up the hot dogs after kids have passed out.
Oh,
10 minutes
mate,
later.
I smash hot dogs down like it's gone out of fashion. But it really worked. The coffee nature, the kind of the maple nature of it cut through or balanced really well against the acidity of the mustard and the ketchup. It was an unexpected win when it came to that pairing. Mate, Aaron Rennie is saying it's not a real hot dog where the skin pops when you bite into it. Mate, we're talking juice in the eyeballs. That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking.
Bratwurst. The old.
That's a whole different video.
You get some
Yeah,
like
that's from Andy's casting couch.
Lidl and Aldi do like really great bratwurst.
Oh yeah, man, the little fucking bratwurst, they're legit, man. They're
Yeah,
good
spot on.
shit.
Well, it's a fucking German company. If they weren't legit, I'd be worried.
Well, yeah, you've got a good point.
What would go well with bratwurst?
I mean,
Quite
it's a pretty easy option, but obviously like the classic German beers, but maybe the maltier ones. Actually, talking about the food and beer pairing meetings we had at the brew club. Somebody just bring some bratwurst, and it was Bock or Doppelbock they brought with it, and that was like amazing as a pairing. That worked really well, and it was just like it was the obvious choice, but it was also like that's why it's the obvious choice, because it just works great.
Yeah,
the Doppelbock.
So
any country that's got laws regarding its beer making is going to have foods that fucking work with it.
Hey, what was it? Was it tax? Johnny, did you say that to Johnny? And he was like,
I don't give a shit if it's for tax purposes. There has to be something about sausage and beer if the Germans are eating and drinking such fucking quantities of it.
I mean, hey, we've got craft beer now, and if the Germans really taking the craft beer thing,
they don't need craft beer.
They've
never got shit enough to warrant a revolution.
Their base level beer is just like better anyway. So you don't need people to go and start making craft beer.
Let's pull in Klaus from fucking Dortmund and offer him a chocolate lactose milk with bourbon barrel imperial stout, or a fucking alt beer to go with his Bockwurst. I mean, what's he going to take? We need a German person on this fucking podcast to discuss that exact point.
Good old Klaus.
What's happening?
Yeah, Klaus, where you at? Come on, get in the chat.
We need some Germans on this podcast.
Yeah.
If I ever buy a dog, I'm definitely calling it Klaus. Just for the record.
I'm calling mine Brian.
See how, Chris, you're saying about the German purity laws? They still in force.
Yes.
So that's why they don't have a craft beer scene.
Well, probably. I need to find
Is that a Family
bottle.
Guy reference, Chris, because you're calling it Brian, or just
absolutely.
you like the name Brian?
Do you reckon they actually like police them though, those laws?
Do they fuck? There's plenty of that. I mean, I know there's not that many, but I'm sure there's plenty of German craft breweries that I don't think it even is a law technically anymore.
Right, it's time to get dippered.
No, it's time for me to open.
Ooh.
I'm gonna need another clean glass. I'm gonna need another clean glass.
Right, so I'm completely lost on the notes here. So should we go favorite barbecue recipes?
Yeah, let's go with favorite barbecue recipes.
I'll start because it's just an easy option. It's the bulletproof recipe that I've cooked many times and it never fails. And it's not the most exciting, but it's definitely the most reliable. And that's the Kelly Bab.
I've never done the Kelly Bab.
Chicken. I guess it would be a chicken shawarma, like if you were going to describe it as what it actually is, but or chicken doner kind of kebab style recipe. But it's fucking awesome. Just Google Kelly Bab. And you'll find the recipe straight away. It'll be the first one that comes up. Essentially, just marinade chicken thighs, thread them onto skewers, and you could do this on any barbecue as well. You don't need to have a Kamado or anything that's capable of low and slow or smoking. You could do it on a kettle. You'll just have to do it indirect. So just build the coals up on the side or whatever. And it's just fucking awesome. It's like the best chicken kebab that you've ever had, and that
great. Recipe may be the reason why I'll be willing to spend in excess of £100 just to buy one of those electric
rotisseries. I mean, I'm kind of whipped on that, but
to get the char.
But also, I'm like, I've cooked it on the grill and just not even bothered trying to spin it, and it still comes out great and does have some nice char, at least on one side of it.
Did you use chicken thighs?
Sign of the great recipe.
Yes,
boneless chicken thighs. Yeah. Chicken thighs are like the best thing ever.
chicken thighs are like if you know. If you made any recipe with chicken breast and you then replace it with chicken thighs, you basically made your recipe 5 times better instantly because it's just more fat, more flavor, better texture,
Exactly right.
doesn't dry out. Winner.
Can I go with like one of my go-to barbecue
Kelly Bab
sides?
for me.
Nice.
Right. One of the best.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Best barbecue sides is DJ barbecue tomato pie.
Oh, mate.
Oh, fuck yes.
Fucking get in.
Tomato pie is like out of this world. And
I fucking hate tomatoes.
if you've got a cast iron like frying pan, a good size one, right? You can just make the most incredible tomato pie in that. And if you can get it on the smoker and cook it on there, even better.
That is boss.
That is an amazing recipe.
That is, if you don't have tomato pie every time you cook beef ribs, considering beef and tomato is a match made in heaven, you are literally doing something wrong. And Andy's looking at us like, I've never had tomato pie.
No,
Mate,
I've not.
You have not lived.
Just
When you're talking about tomato pie, the one I like is like tomato garlic rice sort of thing. So it's that's good.
Can I just say, I have never been more disappointed in a pour in my life.
Come on.
I'm like, literally, I got this bottle out and I was drawn in by the fact that it's a Braybrook Black Lager. And I'm like, I'm going to use my Braybrook glass. And it's like fucking half full. Like, what?
What? Hold on. Is it half full, half empty, or is the glass just twice the size as it needs to be?
I mean, it depends if you're a physicist, a realist, or a pessimist.
Why don't they call it the correct,
I think it's just a poor choice of glassware, personally.
Yeah.
It's a Braybrook beer, mate, in a Braybrook glass.
Should it not be called?
You need to do 2 bottles if you're going to fill that up.
I do have another one in there. I just didn't want to pour 2.
Should it not be called a Schwarzbier?
It says Black Lager.
Yeah, they didn't want to call it a Schwarzbier. Like the English don't get that, do they?
Yeah, they probably don't.
For those of you who've watched the film, I see your Schwarz is as big as mine.
I'll tell you right now,
Schwarz is strong.
This double IPA is off the fucking hook.
That looks like Umbongo.
I'm getting double IPA jealousy here. I feel like I need to go and get one myself.
Mate, it's like the dankest, sweetest, stickiest, fruitiest.
Man, good.
It's giving me. I'm literally getting a lob on.
You getting umbongoed?
Okay.
I'm getting umbongoed.
I'm just going to drop in here on the point that we're currently making about favorite barbecue recipes and stuff, and I'm going to say, if you guys, for those of you who are Patreons of the podcast, I'm actually going to stick my gochujang barbecue sauce recipe up on the Patreon chat. And has anybody actually on this podcast not enjoyed that gochujang barbecue?
I enjoyed it so much when I came to your house. I came home immediately and made an entire batch of it. And it was freaking amazing. Like, it basically went on everything.
It
terrible
works.
Review there. Terrible review.
It actually works, believe it or not, on bacon and egg sandwiches. It is that good.
I can attest to it. Like, it works on cereal. it works on cornflakes. It works in tea.
So if that doesn't get people signing up to our Patreon right now, then there's something wrong. It's a basic Kansas City recipe with a few tweaks. And it just, I mean, on those burgers, on those brisket burgers on that day in October, my God, was it perfection. It's so good. It's a very, very good recipe. But I think my favorite barbecue recipe of all has to be the moink ball.
Oh, I've never made moink balls.
There is something special about a beef meatball wrapped in bacon and smothered in barbecue sauce.
Do you put a lump of cheese in the middle?
I have never juicy lucid my moink balls, mate.
I think you should, like a nice chunk of mozzarella.
I mean, I would probably go Asiago.
Yeah.
I would. I'd probably go Asiago over mozzarella. Mozzarella's a bit too meh. I'd probably go Asiago.
You want something a little more flavoursome.
Something with a bit more of a kick in the bollocks when you're eating it, to be fair.
Oh, jalapeno cheese.
Oh, pepper jack.
Maybe even just a good cheddar would be
a good cheddar would work. A good cheddar would work. It's one of those recipes, the moink ball, where, and if you just Google moink balls, you will find the recipe. It's just phenomenal. The way that you cook it, you literally drop it on the smoker, 150 degrees, and just in 45 minutes, heavy with the cherry wood. And when you get to the end of that, you have the most perfect meatballs ever made. They're phenomenal.
It's almost like a sort of burnt end, bacon wrapped burnt end.
Yep.
Meatball, right?
Don't ever try and make your moink balls with 5% mince. Minimum 15%, preferably 20. They're amazing.
Oh, he's gone gold top, just like Brett Harmon told him to.
Just for Brett Harmon in the chat, this is the Braybrook Black Lager, and this is amazing. It's chocolatey and yet crisp.
Can I just say, Eust, he said my favourite is short ribs.
Oh, fuck yes.
I think, Eust, you're in good company. Short ribs are, without doubt, brisket on a stick, the best eating.
I have to question short ribs, though, and we're going to take a poll of probably the two other people in the room who've ever done short ribs on a barbecue, because I know Andy probably hasn't. Do you rub your short ribs, or do you simply SPG?
Oh, SPG.
SPG is a rub, technically, though, right? So
it is, but it's a pretty damn fucking basic rub.
But to answer your question, just SPG, yeah.
Could you have you ever dry brined your short ribs?
No.
So like you cover it in rock salt and then put it back in the fridge.
If you add your SPG a few hours ahead, technically you have anyway.
Yeah,
so
sort of doing that thing anyway, right?
Yeah. So I guess if you season them in advance, then I might have accidentally dry brined them, but I've not intentionally done it. Like I don't know how many hours it takes for it to be counted as a dry brine. Is it like maybe 2 or...
No, normally if I dry brine a steak, I go 24 hours.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you guys ever dry brine steaks?
No, I just sous vide them.
Mate, like if you dry
like I said,
brine
I've only ever done it like for a
salt,
couple of hours in advance.
Leave it uncovered in the fridge. The salt draws the moisture out. The moisture then liquefies the salt, and then it reabsorbs it. So you effectively draw the seasoning like right into the meat.
Ooh.
And it is like absolutely amazing. It's great if you're doing like a big thick cut, like a tomahawk or a cowboy steak or a. But I've never done it with like short ribs or brisket or anything.
Wow. Could I just ask, by the way, and this goes for the people who are listening as well as the 3 other guys in the chat, could you remind me before we sort of leave at the end of the after party that I need to get some pork chops out because they're going in the sous vide in the morning? They're actually in the freezer behind me, so could somebody remind me to do that? Because I've got a feeling based on
somebody
this...
else take responsibility for that, because I'm definitely not going to do it.
I've got to say that this beer, I'm going to be fucked.
Yeah. Exactly, dipper time.
Yeah. Tricky, by the way, my favorite barbecue recipe was moink balls.
Oh, good Shout, yeah. That's the Brett requested a gold top. So asking you will receive, Brett. You got the Wake With Me gold top, Citra, Nelson,
Hashtag
and
Tourette's
Mosaic
tricky.
Cryo. Fucker.
And brisket's probably one of my faves. I did a brisket last Sunday for my birthday, and I got it from John Davidson's, and it was an Irish cattle, but it's very select, and it was, typically a UK brisket. Like if it's grass fed, it tends not to be suitable for low and slow. It's very, very difficult to get a grass fed brisket to be just right. It's a real finesse to do compared to a fattier marbled brisket. But I found that this brisket on John Davidson's, which is a Scottish butcher, and I ordered it up, pretty reasonable price, and very, very impressed. Very impressed. I'm just trying to find it now.
Brisket as a general rule.
Is that still a
fantastic.
grass-fed
brisket? I think it might be. It's an Irish cattle.
Yeah. So I think there's a certain level of it that's to do with whether it's grain fed or grass fed, and obviously it's gonna be fatty. But then there's also the butchery of it, which plays into it too, with the what's actually left on there. So obviously a lot in the UK, a lot of what we would have seen as brisket previously would be a very lean rolled sliver of brisket flat, right?
You don't get the point on British brisket.
The full packer style cut that is what most people talk about when they're talking about American style brisket barbecue, low and slow or whatever. So
yeah. Well, I think just looking at the website, I managed to get a 3.5 kilo one. The smallest they've got is a 5.5 kilo. It goes right up to 7.5 kilos. But for a 5.5 kilo brisket, full packer brisket, is 57 quid.
That ain't a bad price.
That is decent. A fucking good price, right? For the 7.5 kilo, 78 quid.
Yeah, but the 7.5 kilo is going to feed most of the UK.
Yeah, like you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle unless you've got like a 30-inch barbecue.
Yeah. They're huge.
You're gonna struggle to get that size brisket on your barbecue. But if you go like 6.5, 7 kilos, 67 quid for a 6.5 kilo.
That's not bad.
That is very, very good, and I can attest to it being well marbled. Lovely fat cap on the top. Really, really worth checking out. It's the Black Rock Mountain Angus Hereford brisket.
I have to say, and you guys can argue with me as much as you want on this one, because I've got a feeling there's some comments coming. I do not trim the fat off my briskets.
I think it depends on how much fat there is on the top of the brisket.
I've never had like a layer of blubber. I've only ever had maybe a centimetre. I don't trim that.
I don't have any point to argue with you because I've literally only done the Sainsbury's brisket, which is the first one that I ever tried and the only one that I've ever tried in terms of the proper barbecue style briskets. And there was a bit of fat on it, but there was certainly not enough to be even thinking about trimming anything. So
I hope to God that Andy is actually taking notes rather than just watching Eurovision.
I mean, I've the only other brisket I've cooked.
Who's winning, Andy?
I'm looking at charcoal.
Good lad.
Yeah, bro.
I was trying to find.
I could see the flashing lights of Eurovision reflecting in the background, though. So I know you've still got that on.
Sorry, I was.
The results start coming. The voting's happening just now.
Sorry,
hurry up so we can watch the results.
Oh, fuck off.
You know, if you want to just like log off and watch the Eurovision, Andy, then
No.
Yeah, don't let us get in the way. You know, it's just
No,
he's
you're right.
busy on Google. No,
Just try to...
I also got from the same butcher a Miguel Vergara brisket, which I cooked last year, which is a 6.5 kilo brisket. That was absolutely stunning. I think that was about
that's
100
the one
quid.
we're having in July, then, yeah.
Then I've got another one in the freezer, which is which is sat there for you guys. And
is that earmarked for the end of July?
It is earmarked
tell
when
me
you
more,
guys
Owen.
come
Tell me
down.
more, you sexy beast.
And that, to be fair,
There you go, Owen. There you go, Tricky. You'll need these.
Thanks,
had a lot
Chris.
of fat on it. That had a lot of fat on it, and that took a fair bit of trimming. But the thing is, if you leave it too thick, is like only a certain amount of it kind of renders down and like crisps up, and then you end up just with this like you just end up with this big chunk of like globby fat that you
don't want
really...
globby blubber.
No,
you don't. You want a certain level of render.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get that fat to go crisp, mate, I will chew on that all day. But you need a certain level of render. Now, we're all sitting here and we're arguing about different types of brisket, and that's wonderful. But can we please talk about rubs? Because we've got Gnome Brewing in the house, right? And I know for a fact he's a Seppo. I just want to see what he says when I say Memphis dust. Memphis dust for me is the de facto rub for both chicken and pork. Okay? I don't think it works very well with beef. I think beef really just needs SPG. But Memphis dust from the Amazing Ribs website is amazing. And Owen will attest to this since he ate as much of that fucking pork belly that I made in October. It works. It's amazing. The flavor's phenomenal. I don't think you need to go too complicated. I don't think you need to go, and this is controversial, I don't think you need to go heavy salt when it comes to your rubs either. Unless it's obviously SPG, in which case it's kind of in the fucking name.
The Memphis dust recipe off that website is literally no salt because you're supposed to salt before the rub.
Absolutely.
Right?
It is amazing. I love it on ribs. I love it on pork belly. I love it on chops. I love it on everything the pork that I cook. I even really like it when I do chicken legs, on the Kamado as well. I will put Memphis dust on the chicken legs as well.
Yeah, I think it's like there's pretty sort of go-to kind of a lot of barbecue rubs and like in a similar sort of vein, aren't they? They're kind of brown sugar, garlic powder, paprika, cumin, that sort of thing. So there's variations of a very similar kind of theme.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's those fundamental ingredients. And you can pay 10 quid for somebody to put them in a pot for you, or you can just mix them up yourself and experiment with it, which I think is the crux of the argument that Chris is getting towards here is, do you bother paying for somebody to put it in a big pot and quadruple the price of the spices?
And then you don't even get to experiment either, so you don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm not going to say that some of those rubs might not be the best possible combination of spices that you can get, and somebody's experimented and done that for you, and they're great. I'm sure there are awesome ones, but
that's great.
It comes back to that point we started at the very beginning. Was I like doing stuff from scratch?
Yeah,
and literally
it's the whole point.
I've never bought any of those pre-mixed rubs. My instant sort of thing was I need to make a rub. Oh, I'm gonna have to go and buy all the spices, and then I'm gonna combine them and work it out for myself.
Yeah, and
that's why I approach that sort of thing rather than I'm gonna go on the what the big brands like AO and A&O and Who are the other people that do the
I
barbecue
can't think
rubs
of
that are
another
quite
one.
popular?
No,
Yeah, because I don't buy them.
I'm the opposite actually. I have made rubs, and I've got some of my own rub that I've made, but I also do quite enjoy just checking out, like almost like a bit like making your own beer and also buying commercial beer.
Yeah.
It's like you can just experiment a little bit. Like I bought the Jack and Cola one from A&O, the Chipotle cola flavored rub from A&O, which I thought was kind of quite cool.
I imagine that's
So
magnificent.
I'm open to be persuaded, Owen. So what's the benefit with the pre-made ones for you?
I think it's just sort of like, try it and then get some inspiration to go, oh, okay, well, what's going on in here, and and also like you kind of know for certain that you're going to get a good outcome as well, because you're like, yeah, actually they wouldn't be selling this stuff if it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But it is
point.
an expensive way of kind of doing it. So
it's a very expensive way of doing it.
But equally, it's like when you're buying a load of meat from a butcher's and you need to bump up to get free postage, then it's a good way of doing it.
It's the Malt Miller recipe kit, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
When in doubt, buy the
Malt Miller
George's
also now
Washington.
sells some of these rubs as well, so you can combine that postage equation.
They do. Like Malt Miller really
spice rub offering.
Has there anyone bought any beer?
They were way ahead of this whole podcast idea with their like barbecue rub offerings, weren't they?
But yeah,
they're selling charcoal.
All they need now is the butchery on the side.
Have you seen that they're selling charcoal now as well?
Are they?
Yeah.
I guarantee
Next
you,
step,
Rob
they'll have an in-house butcher. They'll be offering fucking ribs.
I guarantee you, Rob Neal is building a cold room and hiring a butcher right now, because that's the next step for him, isn't it? He's got the homebrew market on lock. He's got the American beers on lock. He just needs a butcher in to say, do you know what? Here's a full pack of brisket at 9 kilos, and we got it from Argentina.
Oh Jesus! I can't do that with a fucking Malt Miller markup, though, mate. I mean, I've got to sell my child's kidney, and then I can have the barbecue of my dreams.
Do they really need 2 kidneys, though? Anyway,
well, this is why I'm going there first. It's not the heart. It's not the liver. You got 2 of those, son.
I just think personally, for me, the reason why I make my own is because I've got more control over what's in it. But I had a thought a few moments ago. I've been waiting for everybody to finish. What's people's opinion about powdered herbs going into rubs, especially when you make your own? Like, one
Depends
of the rubs,
on the herb.
What? Marijuana? No. One of the ones
in terms of which herbs are dry well and which ones don't. So
rosemary and thyme.
Rosemary,
for me,
yes. Thyme, parsley. You might as well just put sawdust in.
Absolutely.
Same with basil.
Absolutely. Coriander's pretty good dried.
No, I would put coriander pretty close to going in the bin.
I think dried coriander, if it's ground down and put into a barbecue rub, especially if you're going Mexicali or
no. But there's a distinction between coriander seed and.
I'm not talking about the seed. I'm talking about the leaf.
Well, for me, not the leaf. I don't think the dried leaf is any good.
Really?
I didn't think I could fall out with you anymore, Tricky, but I just have.
Yeah, but are you talking about the leaf or coriander powder?
I'm talking about the leaf. Get some dried coriander leaf, put it in a pestle and mortar, grind it down until it's a powder, right? Put it in with your next chicken rub and give it a try.
I'll give it a go, but I think it's gash.
And if it's shit, then tell me I'm a twat, which you do pretty much every day anyway. But
I just think there's certain like leafy herbs that the flavor just immediately is gone once it's been through that sort of like
your basic thyme, rosemary, oregano, marjoram, they always work. Always. Those four always work.
Yeah, agreed.
But dried ground coriander on chicken, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. That's what I'm saying. It's amazing. Now, I think we need to move on to the next section because we're at 2.5 hours and we've been arguing about fucking rubs and shit. Beer in barbecue recipes. So literally using beer whilst cooking on a barbecue. Does it extend beyond brisket and ribs, specifically beef ribs? Or
I think anything that you need
at that point?
Anything that you need a bit of like, liquor for stuff that you're going to wrap, then beer is an option and a good option, in my opinion. Other than that, pit beans. I'd put beer into pit beans.
Never put beer into pit beans. No, mate.
Why?
Because it tastes shit.
As opposed to what?
I use a very specific recipe for my pit beans, having tried 5 or 6. I found one that I hit, and I use that all the time.
I don't know. A nice malty dark beer in pit beans for me.
Oh, dear God, no. Who are you? What have you done with Tricky? No, that's
just my experience.
Well, that's just dirt. I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong. I'm just saying, dude, come on. Fucking hell.
Okay,
Next thing you've been telling me that your last bottle of KBS went in your last batch.
I wouldn't waste that on a fucking pit bean recipe. Jesus Christ, do I look like a,
Do I look like I'm made of money, he says?
Total heretic? No.
I like a really good porter. Specifically, the last time I did it, a coffee porter, as my liquor to put around short ribs when I wrap them.
What about in a barbecue sauce? Do you put beer in a barbecue sauce?
I have tried, but I have a wife who is basically allergic to alcohol. So it's not really something that I can do for everybody else in the family.
If you cook it down, then it's not going to have any alcohol in it anyway.
No, but it will still taste of it for her.
Does she start puking, Chris?
Right, okay.
No, she just really doesn't like the flavour.
No, like alcohol.
No, she's not literally allergic to it. She just doesn't drink.
No, my wife's the same. But if she has too much, she'll just start spewing straight away.
No, my wife had her first alcoholic drink in about 5 years. When she went out last Saturday, she had a single shot of Sambuca.
Bold. A bold
she
move
was
for someone that doesn't drink.
Yeah, I personally think that beer has a place in barbecue recipes, specifically jerk chicken. If you're not spraying Red Stripe on it, what the fuck are you doing? I just think that there's a lot of places for it, and a lot of places that I don't particularly find are beneficial or benefited rather by adding beer.
Yeah, I can't say I've really added much beer to my barbecuing other than beer can chicken, which I'm probably sure we've talked about already.
Is this the reason why Tricky's constantly pissed?
Must be.
Yeah.
And to be fair, beer can chicken, like I only ever use the cheaper, like I've got some cans of Budvar hanging around in my fridge. Like I'll use Budvar but I'm certainly not cracking open a fucking
decanter
£8 double IPA to shove it up a chicken's ass.
You know, that's a bit of a waste. I'll go straight out and say I think beer can chicken is bullshit. I've never even bothered trying.
Controversial.
I think the process of having something steaming from the inside out does make a much moister chicken. But you could fill up a beer can with water and it would do the same thing.
I think
I would agree with that. There's a lot of stuff online that says that by doing that you actually extend the cooking time and it's not necessarily going to make it a more juicy chicken. It's going to dry it out on the outside. So
I will jump in here right now and I'll say to Andy, who is probably a beer can chicken virgin, he's not yet popped his beer can chicken cherry. I think you actually get a better flavour out of your chicken if you simply put chicken stock in a can and shove that up the chicken's ass.
Yeah.
I think it tastes much better than basically forcing Foster's into a chicken to actually just put chicken stock in there.
Was Derek not doing something to do with?
He was doing beer can chicken. Dave
Yeah.
was doing beer can chicken.
I can,
Or maybe Andy, chicken stock with a good glug of whiskey.
that's your boy.
I reckon
That's
that
your
might
boy.
be pretty good.
I do think, one thing that Luke's just said is it definitely decreases the cooking time of the chicken. I think Tricky's died.
Dip it.
Tricky's dippered.
Yeah, I think personally that you can improve the flavour of a chicken, but shoving beer up its arse is not necessarily the way to do it.
Well,
I think
I'll
if
put a
you...
link to an article that's relevant, so I'll let you read that yourself.
He's hitting us.
Holy
with
shit.
science.
He's gone fucking research and science.
I reckon it's a link to how lager can be made with quake.
Yeah, it's actually all about pseudo lagers.
So whereabouts have you put this
Why
link?
they're
'Cause it's
better.
not showing up on anything that I can see.
Oh, it's in the YouTube chat. YouTube
No,
chat.
it's not.
No, you haven't posted it there. No.
No.
Oh
Are
wait,
you
there,
watching?
Tricky.
Are you
Tricky's got
watching
a
an old
shit
live
internet
stream?
connection.
YouTube.
Right.
25 minutes later.
Anyway,
You guys
forget that.
move
You can
on.
read that later on. That's bedtime reading. So beer styles that work with barbecue, we've pretty much done
all
that.
of them, for fuck's sake.
Let's just go to our favorite barbecue beer. If you've got to pick one, what is it? Go.
Right, I need a piece. You guys go first.
Oh, you fucking
choices.
cop out. Come on. Pick the beer, man.
Favorite barbecue beer. I mean, like for me, it's not so much about the pairing of beer with the food, right? But the process of low and slow. I think Andy, you kind of talked about it earlier. It's kind of that whole right at the beginning,
Game
the whole
changer.
process of cooking is. I get such a kick out of putting the barbecue on and like spending the day just like hanging out on a nice day, drinking beer, hanging out in the garden with the family, having fun.
That's what I did this afternoon.
But for me, it's more about what beer do I want to go with that experience rather than what beer do I want to pair it with the food. So for me, like a nice, my house pale ale, my 4% hazy hoppy pale ale is ideal. That's hanging out in the garden in the sun, drinking that all day, whilst the barbecue's on, cooking some low and slow.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Nice, good choice. Andy,
check. It's got to be check size. Yeah. Check pills with size.
Just to clarify, is this our favourite beer that we drink with a barbecue or our favourite beer to cook with on a barbecue?
I think I just made that point, Chris.
Yeah,
actually.
I was having a piss. What do you want from me?
All right.
Fucking hell.
I was just
calm
catching you
down,
up.
darling.
Sorry.
Put your hand back down, son.
My apologies, Owen. I was rash, and I am truly sorry.
I will accept your
Anyway,
apology.
my favourite all-round barbecue beer would be some sort of APA. Usually one that I brewed myself, but if I had to go for a commercial version, it would probably be Sierra Nevada, or if I was going to go English, something like a Steady Rolling Man, maybe.
Sonoma?
Bit too soft, not enough bitterness for me for a barbecue beer. So
Yeah, you need something to cut.
What was your option, Andy?
Czech lager, Saz.
Budvar.
Budvar.
What was yours, Owen? Your house
Mine,
pale.
mine was my. I made your point, which was it's more about the experience than the food, which was my house pale ale.
Okay. I would probably go with the session Hefe.
Heavy.
My session Hefe, yeah.
Yeah, that was banging. That was a real session beer.
It's a proper session barbecue beer. If it was a beer to cook with, it'd probably be my Marzen. But I would go with my session Hefe if it was to drink alongside a barbecue. But again, this all comes down to what you're cooking.
Yeah, totally.
Because if it's beef, I probably wouldn't go for the Hefe. I'd probably go for the Kolsch. Whereas if I was
I think the point was the all-round best possible barbecue.
It'd be the Hefe. It'd be my Hefe. Yeah.
Well, that's that then. So we're done.
Done. Big folks, catch you later. See you.
Bye. See you then.
Andy wants to watch Eurovision. So I'll just close this one off by saying thank you very much to Brewcake Tap for sponsoring this podcast.
Yes.
Thanks to Johnny for being an all-round awesome guy. And if you need anything kegging related or Firmzilla related, hit up Brewcake Tap. They have it, and it will be awesome. They're a very customer-focused company that will give you what you need. Other than that, guys, I've actually enjoyed this, and I do believe that there's quite a lot of recipes that I need to get out of this. Remember, you can subscribe to the Hop Edition Patreon at hopedition.com/the Hop Edition podcast. Sorry, patreon.com/the Hop Edition podcast. Other than that, enjoy your barbecuing.
Yeah.
Enjoy your beers.
Don't go and light the barbecue right now, though, because you're probably all as pissed as we are.
Unless you're planning on doing a brisket for tomorrow evening, in which case go and light the fucking barbecue right now.
If you're cooking it for tomorrow lunchtime, you better get that brisket on, son. Otherwise, it's going to be fucking stupid.
Yeah, you've got no fucking chance. And depending on the side of your pork butt, get that one on too. Thank you very much for listening. We guys. Yeah, I've had a few beers. Us guys we're into our barbecue, so hit us up. Let us know what you want, and if you want any of the recipes for my barbecue stuff, my rubs, my sauces, or anything like that, they're all available on our Discord, which you can only get if you're a Patreon.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, we're all good. Say goodnight, guys.
Everyone out.
Night.
Buenas noches.
Buenos dias. Right. I'm going to post the links to the after party in the various chats right now. So thanks very much for listening. And that is the Hop Edition out.
Lasted.
Right. Let's post some links.
Have you cut the live feed?
No, because I'm about to post the links to it. What was the password again? Oh, yeah.
Something about red.
What episode number is this? Something? Any idea what episode number this is?
43.
Yeah, 43.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to make sure that I actually upload this.
I don't all know.
Right, I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat. I don't think there's actually anybody on the chat at the moment. Oh, there is. Right. That's the link, and the password is... Right. Catch you all later. I'm ending the live feeds. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye-bye.